Jay.
Morning.
I'll call the Board of Supervisors for Dubuque County into session on Monday, April 19th, 2021 at 8:30 for our work session with our county engineer, Anthony Barget.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Let's see, the first thing I wanted to discuss today was, discussion regarding haul routes on Monastery Road and fob trucking. And I know Supervisor Potoff, you've had some experience with this situation in the past.
Yes.
Yeah, so actually Sheriff Kennedy and myself wanted to talk a little bit about this today. So we've had quite a bit of history to this situation in the past. Probably a year or two ago, it came before the board on Prairie Creek Road for some issues with hauling down that road, and that's both Prairie Creek Road and Monastery Road are axle embargoed roads. And there's been issues with complaints for fob trucking hauling on Prairie Creek Road. Just for a little background, fob trucking has their operation along Ryan Road, which just kind of leads into Prairie Creek Road, just south of Monastery Road. So we've had some discussion. I've had some discussion with Fob, AJ Fob, about the situation. We want to try to come up with maybe a bit of a compromise on this situation. I definitely want to try to keep his operation off of Prairie Creek Road because it is deteriorating quite a bit. And but the request has come in from him if he's able to use Monastery Road as a haul route when he is empty and not loaded. And I would like to discuss that today about giving him an exemption permit to be able to do that, being that he is a local business and would relieve the situation on Prairie Creek Road. I just think that would be probably a fair compromise to allow him to do that. I don't want to open this up to all through truck traffic, but I am open to the idea of allowing him to haul empty down Monastery Road to get to Sundown Road instead of running around on 151. That's the crux of the matter, I guess. I guess I'll open it up for discussion with you guys.
Yeah, this is Sheriff Kennedy. From our perspective, we've been kind of in the middle of this also. We've received several complaints from one of the neighbors down on Prairie Creek, and we're obviously sympathetic to their complaints, with that being an embargoed road and everything. However, we're also somewhat sympathetic to the situation at Fob Trucking because they do live essentially on an extension of that road. And, where they could pull out onto the highway on Larkin Road is, I don't know if, I know Harley's familiar with the layout of the land out there, but you pull out onto the Highway 151 and the at grade intersection is actually kind of on the backside of a little bit of a rise in the highway. So it's not, I wouldn't exactly call it the safest intersection that we have in the county. We haven't had many issues there, but there's just not a lot of traffic that would use that access. So that's probably what's been a contributing factor in the overall safety of the intersection. But when Anthony presented this idea to me, I thought it was a very fair way to resolve this issue. They are a local business. They don't haul loaded unless they're hauling to their home farm, which is located on Ryan Road, and which they're legally allowed to haul loaded grain to their bins and everything located on their property. So, and given the fact that when you look at the size of farm equipment that's out there on these county roads these days. I don't see how an unloaded semi would be any harder on the pavement than some of this farm machinery that's being hauled around, you know, over the last 10, 15 years.
Are they going to access Monastery from Ryan Road then, or how are they going to get to Monastery, Joe or Anthony?
I guess my understanding was that they were going to access it there from Ryan. So they go down Ryan, turn left on the Monastery. And, you know, with that being a 35-mile-an-hour section of road, you know, I think that that's a safe intersection for them to do that.
Okay. And they'd still be using Prairie Creek for local deliveries as they have been in the past, correct?
Yeah, but I mean, that's, of course, that's something we can't really control.
Right.
You know,
Right.
serving the farmers out there.
I don't think I would have a problem with that. I had worked with AJ previously on this issue, and I'm aware of the numerous complaints that have come in from down there. And I know there was a lot of manpower hours spent down there, and I don't believe they really had any violations noted when they were down there, have they, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I think we wrote one ticket, if I remember, and we spent hundreds of hours. I mean, I think fobs have 7 or 8 trucks, and you know, essentially, and you know, this was one of those issues that I don't want Old Davenport Road to become, you know, where we probably dedicated 100 hours down there for one ticket. I mean, to me, that is not an effective use of our time or energy. And you know, that's kind of why I've you know, I'm glad that Anthony was able to come up with hopefully the solution for Old Davenport, you know, and the designation of the truck route down there, because you know, the amount of time that some of the citizens expect us to dedicate and what we actually get out of it are, you know, sometimes can be a little bit unreasonable.
I would have no problem with that agreement. See if my colleagues have any further questioning on it, or
I have 2, if I might. How do you grant an exception? What is that? Does that mean that the sheriff's department just isn't going to do anything about the violation, or how does that happen? And then I'd also like to know why we think that Mr. Fobb and his company will comply with the agreement.
Well, I know Mr. Bob wants to stay off Prairie Creek Road if he's given the option on Monastery. You know, I trust him on that. I've had a lot of discussion with him about that. So the way we would go about this is we would issue an exemption permit that they would carry in their truck. That, you know, whether it's 6 or 7 trucks, whatever it is, that each of those trucks would carry that permit. And if they don't maintain that permit and keep it in their truck, then they open themselves to, you know, a possible ticket, I suppose. But they carry that truck ticket or permit in their truck at all times.
not just as long as they're empty. If they're full, then the permit does not.
That's correct. Yep.
Okay.
And that's the only way that I will agree to this, is that I don't want to see, you know, loaded trucks and start to get that reputation going down that road.
Yeah, and
Have we done?
well, if you can just give me 1 second, Jay, here. I trust that they'll do the right thing with this. You know, I think that they're wanting to get this issue resolved, and a lot of what they're hauling is cattle, and they don't have any cattle yards on the Bob property. So they pick up, they haul to a barn or a sale barn somewhere, and then catch a load coming back to another sale barn, usually out in Dyersville, and then they go home. So, they wouldn't have any use to be hauling a loaded cattle truck to the fob property.
That they do haul grain too.
Yes, they do haul grain also, but I think that's as far as the grain, I don't know how much they haul outside of their own farming operation. That's something I don't know if anybody from FOB trucking is on the call or not, but if they are, that's something they could probably speak to.
Yeah, and I had invited them to be a part of the call today, but I don't think anybody is online right now.
My question would be, have we ever issued a special permit like this in the past? Do we have any prior examples?
John Deere. Yep, we've just
Okay.
recently, we performed that for John Deere for the proving grounds.
I'm generally for it. Sounds like a workable solution to go from at this point. So I would support it.
Anthony, can the exemption be written so that it's rather specific? So there's not misunderstandings about what it meant?
Yeah, and actually I was gonna bring this up. What I'd like to do is, have it very specific, spelled out empty weights on Monastery Road. And I'd like to do this on a yearly basis, on like an annual basis.
Okay.
That way that they have to come in for a reapplication of that permit, and it just, it puts impetus on them to make sure that they're doing the right thing. And this can be revoked if they don't abide by it.
And then my last question, I hope my last question is that, do we anticipate we're still going to get complaints from the same neighbors?
So that's a good question. So we might get a few complaints on Monastery, because there's some residential areas along there. I'm not totally sure if that's going to happen or not, but so that could happen, I guess. Again, we're just trying to work somewhat of a balance, and you're not going to make necessarily everybody happy through this situation, but I do feel like this is the most kind of fair way to handle this between all sides.
Right, well, we're doing this at 8:45 in the morning. And I'm wondering if we shouldn't, is there an opportunity to send correspondence or something to folks who've been, just to be transparent right along Monastery Road, to say there's going to be an annual requirement and what the special exception is going to say. I mean, that way, if they're going to be angry, and that's fine, they can call me, but it lets everybody know that we didn't just do this for no particular reason. Anybody else think that's a good idea?
It would be fine with me. We haven't received, well, I have to ask Joe, but in my years with the sheriff's office, there's very few complaints on Monastery. All the complaints regarding this came from Prairie Creek.
Yeah, we haven't, excuse me, we haven't received any complaints that I'm aware of on Monastery Road. I think being upfront with the neighbors out there. I mean, there's less than 20 houses on that stretch. So, and the Fob family and most of the residents out there, the Fob family has been out there for 40 plus years, and many of the residents that live on those stretch of the roads, or that stretch of the road, have been out there 30 to 40 years, if not longer. So, I mean, they're all familiar with each other. And I think if you, and the Fob trucks are all marked Fob trucking. So if you send that correspondence out to all the neighbors saying, hey, if you see these trucks, they are legal to drive these roads, or this road if they're empty. I don't think you're going to hear much of anything. And especially, I mean, there's really only one time a day that they're probably even gonna be affected by it. Cause I think when we were doing the extra attention on Prairie Creek, I mean, it was like between 5 and 6:30 in the morning. So, you know, they're not even going to see these guys going out in the morning. They're just going to see them coming back.
Should we set it for public hearing? Is that the better way to go about this? It's been done once before, John Deere. But, you know, it gives everybody, we'll have to send out, it'll publish notice. We, I suppose, can take the extra step of notifying those folks. Anthony, I'm wondering what you think, but it lets us be, you know, we have a public hearing. Everybody then is on notice that we intend to do this. It's an exception, and public hearings take about 10 minutes generally.
Yeah, I mean, I can send,
Unless there's precedent, I wouldn't do a public hearing. So, I mean, I think you can certainly create the document, you can get it on our agenda. And as I was informed last week, we have public comment at the beginning and ending of both meetings. So unless the board agrees they want it on a public hearing, I think that sounds like a step too far. But I'm okay certainly putting it on the agenda and having the document, and then we have the wording. We can approve that. That seems a logical step to me.
Right.
But Harley, you can settle the score if you'd like.
No. I think if we send notices to those along the road that are affected, I think we'd be fine. I don't know that we'd have to have a public hearing on it. Either just the ones that are affected be notified. Like Joe said, there's only about 20 residences there. Wouldn't take too much to get those notified. And if they'd like to speak at the meeting when we'd have it, they'd have the opportunity. But
so it kind of sounds like maybe I'll put together a letter this week, try to send it out to all the landowners out there. And then I would put together this exemption permit and have it under a resolution at a future meeting for you guys to approve then.
I'm comfortable with that.
I'd be comfortable with that. Ann?
Yeah, do we know when we might approve this, Anthony?
I could probably get it on for next Monday, but you know, I probably should give it a couple weeks to get the letter out there and get people thinking on it. So maybe 2 weeks from now.
Right. That would be better, because we'd have the opportunity for a work session prior to the meeting if there's interest. And if you get a response that indicates we should do something different.
Yeah, because I can get the letter out this week for sure. And then that'll give people at least, kind of a week and a half or so to receive it and think on it, and then have that meeting in 2 weeks.
Like the May 3rd meeting, then you think, Anthony?
Yep.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with this and being granted an exception. It sounds like it's a good solution. Wish we had a solution like this for the apple orchard and the parking.
Okay.
Do we have any other report you wish to give?
I guess just my engineer's report that I sent out last night I can go over. Okay, so we're getting a little bit busier. Gun Club Road Bridge, Taylor Construction is planning to pour the bridge deck this week. So we just have probably about 3 weeks left on that project, 3 or 4 weeks. Balltown retaining wall, Widmeyer Landscaping has completed the retaining wall repair, and I think that turned out pretty good. From what I understand, the residents are generally happy up there with what it looks like.
It did turn out nice, Anthony. I was up there.
Yeah, he's a young guy, but he did a good job up there.
Yep, very nice job.
Sundown Road paved shoulders. River City Paving is planning to start work this Tuesday. Work will begin with the concrete patching, and the road will be open to 1 lane only with pilot car and flaggers. We think that the patching is going to probably take about 4 to 5 days. So we're hoping it'll wrap up this week, but it feels like we got some rain coming in too and some colder temps, so that might delay us a little bit. And then we haven't heard when they're going to start in on the asphalt shoulders. So that's kind of remaining to be seen. Then a quick little update on the build grant. With the proposed construction of the roundabouts along South John Deere Road, Extra right of way will be needed along the Dubuque County grounds recreation area, as we've kind of discussed. With that, we're required by federal law to issue a public notice for the public to comment on the recreational area impact. So that notice will be going out into the papers this week. And then public comments will be due by April 28th for us to kind of sort through and then submit that officially to the DOT and the Federal Highway Administration. So that's just kind of a formality we have to go through. For maintenance, we have received lots of calls, and I'm sure you guys have too, related to broken road or potholes. We're waiting for River City to open up the asphalt plant, which we're anticipating this week. As soon as that happens, we'll probably be spending the next month just taking either the skid loader or paver out there, fixing up these locations. A lot of these roads that are falling apart are going to either be paved this year or sometime in the next 2 years. So we just kind of band-aid some of this stuff and get us by for a little bit. But yeah, the spring thaw has kind of brought out some bad spots out there. Usually, and that doesn't time well with heavy loads running up and down the roads too. So this is the critical time frame for roads. So that would be it for the report. Any questions on any of this?
Did you receive any calls on Rockville Road east of 136, Anthony?
Yes, I did. I spoke to actually Burlage out there.
Road.
Yeah, I'm blanking on his first name, Mr. Burlage. I spoke to him about the condition of the road. It's in the plan for 2 years from now to pave that. I'm gonna have to kind of reassess that for possibly trying to put it in for next year. I have to take a look at the budget and kind of see where we're going to be for cash flow balance and all that. But yeah, that's one of the bad ones.
Yeah.
The issue is with that one is it's a fairly low traffic count versus some of the other roads that we have prioritized right now. But it is falling apart to the point where it's hard to recover with any kind of patchwork. So we're going to have to take a closer look at it.
Harley, I received a call as well from some folks out there, and I drove the road last weekend. It is agreeably, it's in terrible shape, and I don't think you're going to be able to patch that because it's some of the deterioration is almost to the center line. So, and it's extensive, but I appreciate that you're going to, as you always do, Anthony, look to see if that needs to be moved up just in light of all the other projects that we have going.
Yeah, at a minimum, we are going to take our maintenance crew with a paver out there, within the next month, and we'll be pulling obviously long stretches of patches to try to just hold it together. It's been, like I said, it's probably going to get reassessed into next year, so it'll be probably an immediate priority.
When were they going to start on Horseshoe Road, Anthony? Do you know?
I haven't received word on any of those projects yet. In fact, we haven't even had a pre-construction meeting with River City yet. I did have a chance to meet with Sherry Sigworth last week and one of their council people, and actually their city clerk as well. So we kind of discussed if we should, fit their portion in for this year. It is kind of an expensive mix of asphalt that we're using there. And the road is in okay shape to maybe exist for another year without touching it. What I recommended to them is let's wait a year because we're going to be doing Havercorn Road next year anyways. That would be an ideal time for us to just lump in that section of Horseshoe with our Havercorn next year. And this would also give them a chance to apply for the RCTP grant, the $25,000 grant. That way they're not spending their own local money on this section of road. So I think they're gonna look at doing that, and hopefully we can get all that to line up with each other next year.
Okay. Actually, I just noticed that last night there's a sinkhole along Horseshoe Road between Al Link and Kenny Klein's farm. You might want to have somebody look at that. I saw that the pavement actually collapsed down along the edge, where if somebody would hit that, it could cause a severe issue, I'm afraid.
All
I
right,
don't know if culvert's bad or what, but
yeah, I'll get somebody looking at that.
okay.
Okay, well, I think that's about all I have for what I have to report today.
If there's nothing further, I would entertain a motion to recess until 9 a.m.
So moved.
I will second.
Motion is second to recess until 9 a.m. All in favor say aye.
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 We are in recess. Thank you, Anthony. Appreciate your work.
Me.
You bet. Thank you.
Good morning. It is 9 a.m. on Monday, April 19th, 2021. We'll call the Board of Supervisors for Dubuque County into session for a formal meeting. And according to our agenda, we begin with opportunity for public comments. If any member of the public wishes to address the board on matters which are on the agenda, they can do so at this time. You would need to engage in the Zoom function, which would be raising your hand under the reactions section, or putting a comment in chat, or enabling your video and giving a wave. We'll hold a moment to see if we have any members of the public who wish to make comment. Seeing no one, I would ask, we have an individual who joined us by the name of AJ. Is that Mr. Fobb? Harley, do you know?
I do not know.
Okay, so we just had a conversation about fob trucking in the work session with the engineer. If he had any input, it would be good to hear from him.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, Nana. Yeah, I guess what I'm looking for is just talking to Anthony. I would like to try to get, a special use permit just to use Monastery Road when I'm empty. Where I'm located at on 15017 Ryan Road, where we have to pop out to 151. There's just a little bit of a knob on the 4-lane. And on that 4-lane, on that knob, of course, everybody's not going the speed limit, and pulling out on the road with a semi. It is kind of a dangerous intersection to be pulling out on when we're empty. And then by using Monastery Road, we could be going across and just getting on Sundown instead of getting on the 4-lane. And same with coming home empty. We'd like to, instead of going down to the Fillmore Church, crossing the 4-lane highway there, we all know that don't have the very good track record of safety there, trying to cross 4 lanes with a semi. And this would only allow me to change or only cross 1 lane on Sundown to turn on the Monastery. So I'm just asking to use it empty. I'm not trying to tear the roads up. I'm trying to, I don't know how to say it. It's, just going to be a lot more convenient and safer for us. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments. I'm sure that Anthony Bargett will follow up with you about our conversation earlier this morning. I think we had consensus that we were going to be working with you on an exception.
Oh, thank you very much.
Is there any other member of the public that wishes to speak?
This is Todd Loker. I was just here for Mr. Fobb. So if you were wondering why I was present, I was assisting Mr. Fobb in this discussion. So I'm glad to hear that the board is open-minded to this situation, and I want to thank you for that.
Very good. Thank you for being present, Mr. Loker. I do not see any other individuals who wish to provide comments to the Board of Supervisors, so we will move on to our agenda. And we do have a proclamation this week. There it is on our screen sharing. The proclamation, do I have a supervisor who wishes to read that? Who feels that they're sponsoring?
I can do it, Anna, if you want.
Sure, Harley.
April 25th to May 2nd, 2021 Soil and Water Stewardship Week. Whereas fertile soil and clean water provide us with our daily sustenance, and whereas effective conservation practices have helped provide us a rich standard of living, and whereas our security depends upon healthy soil and clean water, and whereas the stewardship calls for each person to help conserve these precious resources. Now, therefore, the Dubuque County Board of Supervisors proclaim April 25th, 2021 to May 2nd, 2021 Soil and Water Stewardship Week. Proclamation adopted this 19th day of April, 2021.
Do we have a motion to approve the proclamation?
I will make a motion to approve the proclamation.
And I will
I will.
second that. I'll second the motion. We have a motion and a second to approve the proclamation, the Soil and Water Stewardship Week. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye, that motion carries unanimously. Now we normally provide a moment for comment. Is there a supervisor who wishes to speak? And is there, I believe Mike Freiberger is here on behalf of the Soil and Water Commissioners to at least accept the proclamation. Mike, I'd give you a moment if you wish to say something as well.
Thank you for proclaiming that week for Soil and Water Stewardship Week. Thank you for your cooperation with us, and what you have done for us is very beneficial for this resource. So thanks again.
Thank you for what you guys have done, Mike.
You're welcome.
Great partnership. If there's nothing further, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes of the meeting. We need April 5th and April 12th. I think we can do them together as one motion.
And could we back up just a minute? Reference that proclamation. I would like to speak to my colleagues regarding a proclamation for next week, if that would be okay.
Sure, what's going on?
I would like to have a proclamation for next week, kind of running in conjunction with the Soil and Water Stewardship proclamation. It'd be a partnership with the county conservation and with landfill, and we would designate April 25th through May 15th as a time of litter removal, illegal dumping awareness, where we would have I guess a concerted or collaborative effort to clean up some of our streets in the county and towns. I've been in contact with Brian Preston, and I have to contact Bev out at the landfill. I didn't get a chance to call her last week, but I think May 1st they have Catfish Creek cleanup, and like to set May 8th for the Little Macokota River cleanup. Brian was going to maybe work on setting up with Caitlin, the naturalist, to have kind of a kayak canoe type thing going down Little Macokota, cleaning it up, kind of a community effort, if that would be, I guess, agreeable to my colleagues.
The proclamations normally come to us, I think, kind of created. Is someone preparing a proclamation for you, Supervisor Potoff?
I have it nearly completed. I have to get with Dawn to go over some of it yet.
I definitely would support that. So yeah, I'd be happy to see that on the agenda in a future meeting.
I would as well. It's a great idea.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Sorry.
Harley.
You bet.
Brings us back to the approval of the minutes.
Okay, I will make a motion to approve the minutes of the meetings of April 5th and April 12th.
I will second.
Motion and a second to approve the minutes. Under discussion, just a comment. We are using a new format that has been designed by the auditor's office. Do my colleagues have any brief feedback on that? And I see the auditors now on video. Is there anything you wanted to add in discussion, Kevin?
No, I appreciate the feedback I received from everybody. We took a look at a number of sample counties and sort of pulled the best things from each of them in order to streamline and make them a little more to the point, just the facts, as it were. So I appreciate the support and all the help that Mary and the other people in our office gave us with this.
Yeah, thanks for everything you've done with that.
Any
Kevin?
elements of the discussion then that we have would be, there wouldn't be any memorialization of that other than through Zoom or through the recording itself?
Ask that again, I'm sorry.
If there's discussion and points of discussion, those would not be detailed. And I'm just simply asking, is that are we keeping a recording of the minutes of the meeting, or what other record is there?
We are, though. At the top of the minutes, you'll see I added a line. All of our meetings, excluding closed sessions, are being uploaded to YouTube. And I'm working with Karen, in addition, to get some links to those videos directly from our agenda page that we have on our county website. There's a couple more ideas that I'll be bringing to you in the next couple weeks or a couple months where we can streamline it further and really sort of amp it up as far as transparency goes to the public and to the board. So, but for the time being, yeah, it's a difficult situation because we still have to publish minutes in the papers, even though we have a full video and audio recording. So that sort of stimulated some of this streamlining of the minutes here.
Very good. Are there any questions of the auditor?
I have nothing.
Nope.
Motion and a second to approve the minutes. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, that motion carries. Thank you, Auditor Delgado. Next, we have consent items. There are none on this agenda. The fourth item is the procurement procedures. We have some requests for quotes that we need to approve. The first one is a request for quote for a 2021 model year large regular cab 4x4 with 8-foot box, 10,000 pound GVWR pickup truck.
I'd make the motion to approve the request for quotes for the 2021 4x4 with 8-foot box.
And I will second that.
Motion is second to approve the request. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, that motion carries. Our next request for quotes and notice to bidders is for proposals back by Friday, May 7th. The request for quote is for 2021 model year crew cab, half-ton HD 4x4 with 6.5-foot box, 6,800 pounds GVWR pickup truck. The motion to approve. There are no questions.
I will make that motion to approve.
I will second.
Motion is second to approve request for quotes. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, that motion carries. Our final request for quote is for 2021 model year extended cab, half-ton HD 4x4 with 6.5-foot box, 6,900 pound GVWR pickup truck. There's no questions. We're looking for a motion to approve the request.
I will make the motion to approve the request for quotes for the 2021 model year half-ton 4x4 with 6.5-foot box.
And I will second that.
Motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, that motion carries. We do not have any public hearings scheduled for today, nor did I see any plots being presented for approval. On to the next item, which is the action items. There's our first resolution to approve the hiring of deputies, assistants, and clerks. Looking for a motion to approve the resolution unless we have questions for our Human Resources Director.
I would make the motion to approve the resolution for the hiring for permanent full-time program instructor for Sunnycrest.
And I will second that.
A motion is second to approve the hiring of the position for Sunnycrest. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, that motion carries. Next resolution, looking for a motion to approve Third Amendment to Child Support Recovery Staffing Contract. Maybe for some context for this, I don't know if we have our county attorney present with us to present any information. There, good morning, County Attorney May. Did you have anything you wanted to give us for context for this?
Not really. This has been an ongoing matter. Historically, child support collection was a county matter, and there was an assistant county attorney, Chris Smith. I don't know if any of you remember Chris, but Christian took care of that. And then at one point, the state took it over through the Attorney General's office. So at the time that it was converted, I believe there was 4 county employees working there, and I think one is since retired, but there's still 3. And my understanding is that in order to avoid them maybe having some negative effect from moving from the Teamsters bargaining unit to the ASME unit, I believe it is, they were retained as county employees. So basically what happens is all the money that we expend for this, we get reimbursed by the state. So it's sort of just like a pass through. And these are 1-year agreements now. They have been for this, I think this is the 3rd one now, as you kind of see there. And but that's really the reason that the county is still involved in it, is because of the 3 county employees that are up there.
Does anyone have any
Very good.
questions?
I do not. I will make a motion to approve the 3rd amendment to the Child Support county staffing contract.
And I will second.
Motion a second to approve the third amendment to the staffing contract. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, that motion carries. Thank you, CJ. Next, we have a resolution to approve the county purchasing card administrative policy. Any context needed if we have questions. I believe our HR administrator, Dawn Sherman, is with us. I don't know, Dawn, if there's any Supervisor Potoff, I think this all began last year. So I don't know if you've had a chance to visit with Ms. Sherman for background, or if you'd like an introduction.
I am not, this deals with the procurement cards, Dawn? Or-
Yep, this is the county credit cards. And we did have this on the agenda late last year. There was some feedback from you in which we took back to our department heads. We actually reviewed these policies twice since then with our department heads, received feedback and comments and edited. And then we also, with our new county auditor, specifically the P card, his department oversees that program. So he was able to give some feedback and made some minor changes to it. And so what you have presented here is reflecting our current practices for this program.
Okay. I would make a motion to approve the county purchasing card administrative policy.
And I will second that.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we have a motion, a second, to approve the purchasing card administrative policy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that motion carries. Next is the resolution to approve the county procurement administrative policy. Similar situation, Supervisor Potoff. So I will ask Dawn just to give some context to see if there are any questions of the supervisors.
So for this policy, we really broke it out into two different parts. Our current policy really focuses on the procurement of public improvement projects. Anything that falls under that is actually under state code. So we really did not change much of the policy in regards to that because we must follow state code. The public improvements are really kind of the horizontal development. Roads, culverts, bridges are not included under that. But anytime we do any major construction, we do have to follow those guidelines. So we really did not change much of the policy in regards to that because we do follow state code. But one thing we did add to this policy is for the procurement of goods and services. Our previous policy really did not address that. And so, and working with the previous auditor and our current auditor and his team, as well as our budget director, we looked at putting together a little bit more transparent process in procuring those goods and services. And we broke it out into a tiered system of less than 5,000. And then for any purchases of 5,000 up to 50,000, that we would require now 3 written quotes that would come to the board as well. And then anything over 50,000, the estimated cost over 50,000, we would require a formal RFP process. We think that this will be, this policy shows in the practice of doing this is more transparent to how taxpayer funds are used. And so again, this had been reviewed with our department heads several times as well. There was positive feedback, just so that they can point to a policy and they'll know exactly how to move through that procurement procedure then.
Do we have any additional questions of Dawn? If we're satisfied with the county administrative policy, we're looking for a motion to approve the resolution.
I will make that motion to approve the county procurement administration policy.
I will second.
Motion and a second to approve the county procurement administrative policy. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, that motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dawn. I know you've been at this a long time, and I appreciate your persistence. Very good.
Thank you, Dawn.
Item number 8 is our communications section, and we do have two, I think they're both manure management plans that we would, looking for a motion to receive and file.
I would make the motion to receive and file the manure management plans.
And I will second that.
Motion a second to receive and file. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Next on our agenda is the updated appointments, vacancies, and there's been, I thought we were making such good progress last week, just a wee little week ago, and yet the updated shows us that we still have several vacancies that weren't noted before. The Investment Policy Council, we had an ending date of January 31st, so we've got another person in there. Anyway, this is Tanya and I have been through this, and I do think it accurately reflects kind of the status of today. So more work to be done. It's for information only and any brief discussion we wish to have.
Are we posting the number of openings in each category like you had up there? Or are we just opening up applications or accepting applications for wherever? I guess, I think as we're putting the numbers out that the general population knows how many seats are available on each one, where they would be able to, maybe direct their interest a little more.
It's a good question. I know we had extensive discussion last week about how our policy is, and consensus, I think, to appoint every 60 days on the even numbered months. But is this easily available for people to see, Dawn, how many openings there are? Is that something that a person can see before they apply?
Yeah, I believe so. And then, when you apply, we do have, sure, you can apply at any time. It's an online application system, or if anybody requests a paper copy. So at any time you can apply for any of our boards and commissions, and we would hold those applications for consideration for up to a year. So, as you go online, you can apply at any time.
This is Ed Raber. The answer to your question, Supervisor Potoff, is yes. The chart that was displayed on Dawn's screen share this morning is on the county's website under boards and commissions. So in the same location that you would select right there, that you would select applying, you can see that material.
Can you click on that? Let's see how updated that is.
We do need to update it. We have the 12th on there.
Very good. There's no further information regarding appointments. I will move on to the personnel requisitions. And we do have one to approve. And is there anything you wish to say about it, Dawn, or I don't believe the sheriff's necessary, but.
Oh, but he had an upcoming resignation, so this is backfilling that position in the jail. So we recommend approval as it is budgeted.
I would make
I'll
the
make a
motion.
motion to approve the personnel requisition.
I will second.
The motion is second to approve the personnel requisition. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, that motion carries. Thank you. Next are tabled and pending items, and we rarely, if ever, have those. So there's nothing there. We're now to public comments. If opening it back up to the public, if anyone wishes to address the Board of Supervisors on matters which are not agenda items, they can do so at this time. Again, via Zoom through the reactions button, raising your hand, chat, enter a comment, or enable your video and give a wave. If there's anyone who wishes to address the board, we will hold for a few minutes to see if we have public comment. Dawn, do we know if anyone's actually in our boardroom?
Just Mary is in there today.
Very good. I do not see anyone engaging us at this time, so we'll deem that matter closed. I'm looking for, I believe, is motion to recess. We do have extensive work sessions scheduled for a bulk of the remainder of the morning, so we could recess until our 10 a.m. COVID update.
I would motion to recess till 10 o'clock.
And I will second that.
Motion a second to recess until 10 a.m. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, we are in recess till 10 a.m. Thank you. Good morning. Call the Board of Supervisors for Dubuque County back into session. We have a 10 o'clock work session with the public health partners for a COVID update.
Good morning, Supervisor McDonough. This is Patrice Lambert, and I know Tom Berger and Samantha are on right now, and I believe that Stacy is going to be joining us as well. Just a couple of highlights from our weekly update that we did send out. We just wanted to share that 57% of the county total population, 16 and older who are eligible for a vaccine, have either completed their vaccine series or they're currently in the process. And 87% of our county's total 65 and older population has either completed their vaccination series or they're currently in the process. Now this week, as you're probably well aware, we are going to be offering walk-in clinics. We have started our billboard messaging with our Sleeves Up campaign. People can still call that number, but also we are getting out those 4 walk-in dates for people to be aware of, that on Tuesday from noon to 5 they can walk into the pod. On Wednesday from 8 to 5 they can again walk into the pod set up at Kennedy Mall. On Thursday the firefighters are doing a drive-through and it's open to anyone from noon to 7. And then our 4th walk-in clinic will be on Saturday from 8 to noon, again out at the pod. So we are still looking at our population of basically anyone and everyone now that the vaccine is open and eligible to anyone 16 and older. Last week, our providers did begin with our college campuses, and they will be working on the college campuses again this week. So it's basically just concentrating on educating the public, informing people if they are not aware that everyone is eligible now, and that we are going to again have our series of walk-ins in case people were contacted in the past but were not able to go because of the times or their schedule or whatever the case may be. So that is our report for today, unless Tom or Sam or Stacy have anything to add. Otherwise, we can address any questions or any concerns.
Patrice, this is Harley. Last week I saw there's a lot of openings. Did they get everything filled up last week with their appointments, or?
Whoops, to my knowledge, yes, they did.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Sure. Do you know what? Now that I think about it, I'm sorry. Mercy One might have had some openings, Mercy One Pharmacy, but I believe that they were going to be able to finish that up today, now that I think about it. But I think everyone else was successful in getting those done. Sorry about that.
Reference to walk-in dates, did they, I guess I saw the dates and I didn't look at the times. Are they having like some later times for people, or how are they doing that?
Sure. On Tuesday, they're noon to 5 out at the pod. Wednesday, they're from 8 to 5 out at the pod. Thursday at Grand River, it's noon to 7. And then on Saturday, it's 8 to noon out at the pod at Yonkers site.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Patrice, this is Supervisor Wickham.
Sure.
My question is related to vaccination rates and then the campaign. And so possibly today and or future meetings, if you could provide to the Board of Supervisors, what is that campaign to continue to increase our vaccination rates? What should we expect to see from the public, to the public, excuse me. And then secondly, how we compare maybe to other counties in Iowa and other counties in the Midwest that are similar our size related to our vaccination rates.
Sure, we can actually prepare that. We do have a Board of Health meeting on Wednesday. We can even share that on Wednesday evening and then next Monday to the Board of Supervisors. But it's my understanding that Dubuque County is still the 6th highest in the state of Iowa with the vaccination rates. What our campaign is currently with our billboards and our posters and our messaging is that we need everyone to be vaccinated as soon as they can. And our also big message is that anyone is eligible, 16 and older. Again, we'll know a lot more after this week with our walk-ins to see if we need to be doing more of the walk-in clinic sites or if what we need to be doing. So the incident management team, we're hoping to learn quite a bit with our clinics after this week with our variety of times and dates for our walk-ins. So we will have more to share next Monday for sure.
Very good. Thank you.
You are
Trace,
welcome.
and I appreciate very much that you gave me some information and some focused points to share last week on Friday when I was on the Voices of the Tri-States radio show. And as you know, I was there at 12:30 completing that interview at 1 o'clock and talked about some of the things you've just addressed. Of course, at that time, I had no idea that we were going to offer walk-in clinics. When we think about how we're spreading our message, you know, we probably have some things we need to think about. Because when I'm on a radio show and I don't even know what's happening, and then at 3 o'clock that afternoon, oops, there goes the city of Dubuque with the press release. We got walk-in clinics. I mean, are the walk-in clinics the new way forward? We certainly, I mean, do we not know that today, whether or not we're going to be offering walk-in clinics going forward? I don't understand the secrecy about it.
And Supervisor McDonough, there's really no secrecy. I'll be quite honest with that. We work with our vaccine providers and they're on a time frame as well. So we really can't pull everything together to be able to get it out to the public until we hear from them. They have a lot to do on their end. They have to get the okay, they have to get the staffing, they have to give us the hours. And we know that they are on deadlines as well, but trust me, we're not keeping anything secret by any means. As soon as we get all of that information and Randy Gale, our PIO, is able to pull that together, that's when we release it. We don't want to be releasing half of the information or information that we have to go back 2 hours later because one of our vaccine providers was delayed in getting us the information or whatever the case may be. Throughout this whole pandemic, I'll be honest, the incident management team has never had a lot of time to be able to come up with something and then present it. I mean, it seems as though it's ever changed. I mean, it's always changing. So please know we're not keeping anything back. We're getting it out as soon as we get it finalized.
Here's the deal. It would be very helpful to the whole community if we could have a constant message. So, but specifically about vaccine distribution, it seems to me we should be able to, we have a pod where we're spending money. Could we not say that the VNA will be there on these dates every week? On Thursday morning, it's a walk-in clinic. First come, first serve. I don't understand why we can't commit to doing that as an essential point of easy communication. You know, the forward and the back, we don't know, now we know, now it's released. It's just really impossible, as you just shared, to set forth a consistent message. Seems to me best scenario to get people at this point would be a location, a date, every week the same, and it's walk-in, and staff that time frame appropriately. We have the VNA to do that, So we're not providing any other providers with, Mercy One schedule and Grand River and so forth. But wouldn't that just be a simple thing for the incident management team to support?
Yes, it would make our life much easier, I'll be quite honest.
Well, why
And I
couldn't we, Patrice, as the, maybe the health board can talk about this Wednesday night, but why can't we, as an essential part of that incident management team, make it so? Why can't we make that happen? So that we, the county, leads on something about this and that we determine those are our allocations, and that's the best message to share for the whole county to be consistent. Why are you hesitant to do that, or do I just not understand what happens at these meetings?
Well, and I can take this back to the incident management team, but I know that there's a lot of factors that come into play, such as the boosters and the staffing. And as you had mentioned, the VNA, they have many other activities going on as well, within all of our other grants that we have. But I'll be glad to go back to the incident management team to see if we can just have one consistent day of a walk-in.
Right. And then if someone's there for their booster or they're not or whatever, I mean, it just seems like we're going to have to make this simple and convenient to push through to where we need to get, right? We're at 57%, and I think that's tremendous. And I suspect that we're leading in Iowa on that kind of coverage for people agreeing and wanting to be voluntarily, vaccinated, making the effort to get their own appointments. That's wonderful. But I do think there's something to be said for something simple and knowable and consistent. It doesn't have to be days long, but it should be the same in repeating.
I would also like to add, if you can hear me okay, that I think
Sure, Samantha, go ahead.
This past week, maybe week and a half, I think we've really started to see it become more and more difficult to fill appointments for all of our providers. And so this first round of walk-in clinics is going to be really telling about how many people are there left in the county who would like a COVID vaccine at this time. And so I think it's just hard to commit to a set date and time moving forward because of the factors Patrice mentioned. And then also we're just trying to right now get a better idea of how many people in the county still would like the vaccine. And I think these open appointments this week are going to really show whether we're able to fill them or not.
Samantha, I think that's a valuable perspective. But I mean, honestly, I didn't even write down the dates and the times myself for record keeping. It is here, there, not here, over here. So having it be constantly changing is probably not indicative really of the interest of the county in getting it done. We're now going to need to go to folks who have other things that they are very, complicated lives and schedules. So trying to fit into something over here, but now it's over here, that's difficult.
Okay. And as I said, Supervisor McDonough, the incident management team will take that into consideration with our meeting, because I agree, if we can make things simple, we need to make them simple.
I think that was the purpose of the pod, right, Patrice?
Correct. Yep.
Yep. Very good. Are there other questions?
Sorry, Patrice, this is Harley. With the number of individuals that have been testing positive, is there a age group on that?
Oh, I have not been into the data over the weekend. Samantha, have you by any chance? We can get, if we don't have it right now, we can get back to you.
Harley, are you looking for just
positive.
the most recent positives, or which age group carries the most positives?
Oh,
in general.
Which age group is most positive now? If it's the, that 18 to 30 or whatever, whatever the age group is, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
We do
I haven't looked for the past few days, like what that age group would be specifically. I know in general it's 19 to 24 carries the most, but we can definitely look into that. That's an easy thing to find.
Okay, yeah, I was just curious. I was assuming that's what it was with spring
College
break
age. Right.
activities. And then I saw there was, I think, 9 hospitalized. Do we have
Mhm.
an age group on that? The ones that are hospitalized?
The last week when we met with our hospitals, I believe the oldest was in the 60s. Oh gosh, and Samantha, do you remember, was the youngest? It was like the 40 to 60-year age, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I recall too, Patrice.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Final questions or comments?
None for me.
None for me.
Very good. Thank you, Patrice
Okay.
and Samantha. I appreciate you. We'll see you Wednesday evening at the Board of Health meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Patrice. Thanks, Samantha.
Our next work session is to discuss the health insurance, the potential of an opt-out plan. Over to you, Dawn, for you to set this up. I know we have some guests who wish to present.
Yes, thank you. So when we work with our consultants, Cunningham and Butler, each year during our rate renewal time, one of the things that we're always looking for are any type of cost saving programs or measures that we can implement into the county's plan. And so one that has been discussed really for the last several years within the insurance committee and with our consultant is an opt-out plan in which if an employee chooses to opt out of the health insurance, that they would receive a monthly stipend for doing that. And how that is a cost savings is because part of our insurance plan is a fully insured portion of it with Wellmark Blue Cross. And so regardless if the employee utilizes the plan that month, we are paying that premium for that month. So if we're not paying that premium, that is a cost savings. And so we discussed this a little bit during budget. Stella and I took some time with Sarah and Mike and their team to look at what our participation is and what we think would be a proposal that would perhaps give the county some cost savings by giving employees the option in their compensation and their benefits to choose if they had other options for insurance, that they may decide to do the opt-out plan and take home some additional money in compensation versus having that coverage. And so we just wanted to maybe show you what this would look like and receive some feedback if you would like us to continue to pursue this or offer it either in July, or we would look at maybe even a January timeframe, because that does tie better with other companies and organizations, health insurance, or if it's just something that maybe we just want to put on the shelf for this year and look at it, reevaluate it again next year when we look for some cost saving measures. So I have Mike and Sarah on here as well, if they want to jump in and provide some feedback of the plan that as we designed it.
Perfect. Thank you, Don. Hello, everyone. Sarah Dickinson here. I also have Mike Johns on the phone. Most of you know Mike also. I think we've got 15 minutes, which is not a lot of time because we love to talk about insurance. So definitely probably what you want to talk about on a Monday morning. So we'll keep it short and sweet, but we want to answer your questions too. So Dawn, is Mike able to share his screen or just me?
You both should. I've made you both co-hosts, so you both should be able to share your screen.
If you want to, Mike, why don't, yeah, there you go. Okay. So we're really quick going to take you through why we have this on the table for consideration and how it would affect your employees. We truly view this as an additional option. Again, option is key. No one is being pushed into this. It's truly an additional option that you would offer employees, and they can make the decision if it's right for themselves and or their family. But Mike's going to give you a little bit more detail here.
Yeah, so Cunningham and Butler's been a partner with the county for several years, You've been part of the Iowa Community Trust now since its inception. And, you know, we've talked about over time what this 3C metrics pages that you've got on the screen here. And Cottingham and Butler's kind of observations to the county in terms of their cost and, you know, looking at things 3 or 5 years down the road. We have largely at this point maxed out what I'll call the funding mechanism, right? The means of which you purchase insurance and doing it as economically as possible, right? You are split funded inside of a trust using an HRA buy down. It has saved the county money. We have looked at self-funding. We've looked at fully insured. Every analysis that we've done says any other option would cost you more. And as costs continue to increase, the county's insurance right now, I think, comes in at right around $5 million, a little over. Even a 4% increase, which is a very good renewal in the scope of medical and prescription drug increases, even a 4% increase is on a big number. And that was our 7/1/21 increase, 4%, which ends up being about $265,000. And so over time, we've showed the county, you know, number one, what you're charging employee premiums, which is this employer contribution percentage, you're charging significantly lower than benchmark. You're picking up almost 93% of the cost of coverage. Benchmark for Mercer for the state and local government average is 80%. So you're just charging.
Hey, Mike.
Less. Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but can you go to page 17 and show them visually what you're talking about there with the contributions down here at the bottom?
Yeah.
So you'll see that this is the single family cost for the month for health insurance. And if this is what the county is paying, or excuse me, the employees are paying at the county on average, because they differ slightly depending on which department. And then you'll see the Midwest average, the government employer average, and then just your average national employer. So you're charging your families less than most employers charge a single, but definitely drastically less on the family.
Yep.
And that's important because a lot of people are taking your insurance because of that.
Yep. The other piece is what they're buying, right? And they're buying a very rich plan. And we've talked about that. It's a very good benefit. So a $300 out of pocket compared to the national averages of about $3,000 and $4,000. So how that shows up again in our 3C analysis here, 93% plan value compared to 87% average, 93% employer contribution compared to an 80% average. The county does not want to change benefits for people, create hardships, right? Take things away. And so we've constantly tried to bring ideas and thoughts to help manage those. But the result of what we're getting with rich premiums and rich insurance is you have more people taking the insurance and more dependents taking the insurance, even in some cases when they don't need it. And that's really what the opt-out strategy aims to fix is if someone does have access to other insurance, they take it. And if you think about other insurance, especially single, that's the heaviest subsidized rate. If someone were to go to their employer, on average, employers are picking up 80% or greater of the cost of single coverage. So you have more people taking your plan and more families taking your plan, which we estimate is costing about $1.7 million more than if you were at benchmark of each of these. And so, you know, what we aim to do is bring strategies that create win-wins before you have to start making changes that don't create win-wins. And that's kind of what the opt-out is. But just to give you an idea of premiums, this gray line here kind of represents where we're at, right? About $44 for a single, about $102 for a family. That's about 7% of the cost of coverage. If you were to increase that to the government average, it goes from 44 up to 104 for a single, 102 up to 394 for a family. That picks up almost $1 million in contributions. It's a big jump, but it's also a big jump on a monthly basis, right? Singles go up 60, families go up 291. That's a big jump for employees of the county. Even at 10%, it's still kind of a big jump. I mean, we can pick up 220 grand, but you have to increase your premiums $25 for a single, $57 for a family. That's even kind of a big jump. So when we talked about all the stuff that we've always gone through, if you go to the opt-out line, I can pick up almost that same savings by almost offering a benefit. By actually incenting people to take other coverage, I can pick up the equivalent of that big premium shift. And that's kind of, again, why we're looking at this as a first means to save money. So, just a high level review of what the opt-out is. You are going to pay an employee not to take the insurance, and we can cut the payment based on the tenure of the employee. So we can say, right when you become a eligible employee of the county, day one, we'll pay you $100 not to take the insurance. So you're going to pay them about $1,200 a year not to take it. You can create tenure classes as well, which is a big benefit for the county's employees because you have very tenured employees. So we've cut your census data. We've looked at it, assessed it, who's enrolled, who's taking it, who's not taking it, to try to find the most efficient means of where to offer opt-outs, right? And so the first scenario is right out of the gate. When an employee gets hired, no tenure, right? 0 years of tenure. You have 312 employees currently enrolled, 95% participation. So there's actually only 16 people waiving the plan. You're paying $14,500, or sorry, I should say almost $16,000 of total cost, right? So if I pay somebody $100 a month, I'm going to pay them $1,200 a year. That creates a savings opportunity of $14,500. Every person you get to not elect your insurance, that would be your net savings, $14,500. So the table here just kind of shows, as we move up with elections, what the net savings amount can become. Cottingham and Butler, about a year and a half ago, did a survey for the county's employees. We surveyed the interest in an opt-out. I think we had in the neighborhood of 140 respondents to the survey, and 40% of them said they would be interested in an opt-out. All of the health insurance committee meetings that we've had over the last 2 years that we've talked about this, very large interest. Very much employees see this as a means to be able to pick their total compensation, right? If benefits aren't as important to them and they would rather take the cash, which is taxed, they can do that. And it's a win-win for the county because of that net savings. So at 0 years of tenure, the amount that we discussed was about $100 for the opt-out monthly. If you jump up to 10 years, we're able to increase the opt-out amount to further incent tenured employees. And so when we look at your census data at 10 years, there's 154 employees taking the plan. Only 2 employees are waiving the plan. If we pay about $400 a month for the opt-out incentive, that's a $4,800 annual payment to the employee. It creates a net savings opportunity for the county of $11,000. And so even at 10 years and even with significantly increasing the opt-out amount, there's still a significant win. So Cottingham and Butler, based on the survey data and just estimates of what we see, we put a range for each of the opt-outs. If you're able to get between 5 to 10 employees in each of the classes, that's the $200,000 in estimated savings that we're coming up with. So again, look, we can look at doing spousal carve-outs, working spouse exclusions. We can look at plan alternates where we shift deductibles and out-of-pockets to get that savings. We can jump the employee cost share up to get that savings, or you can roll an opt-out out and get that savings by offering a benefit. I'll pause there because I know I just threw a lot out. If there's any questions on it so far.
Hi, Mike, this is Supervisor Putoff. Just a question. I guess I don't follow the tenure thing. If a new employee comes on and they elect not to have the insurance, paying them the same amount, say the $400 instead of $100, we would still be obviously saving a lot of money. I guess I'm not sure why, I'm not following why they'd only get $100.
Yeah, so.
And we can set it up that way, Harley. This was just an idea. So that's kind of why we wanted to bring it to the table to you. You can be more generous. This was just kind of a starting grounds for that. So, sorry, Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, the other thing I'll say is if you are following the rules and regulations of how we have to administer the opt-out, you technically have to pay employees that are currently not electing the plan the opt-out money. And so that's this negative offset right here, right? So you have 16 people currently waiving the plan at 0 years of tenure. I have to start paying them $100 out of the gate. So if no one took the opt-out, you're going to be in the whole 20 grand because that's how much it costs to pay these 16 employees $100 a month. The reason why we scale up the opt-out at the higher tenure is to increase the utilization of the opt-out. We want more people take it, and we don't want to offer that 400 out of the gate because then it's 400 times 16 people not taking it. Then that number goes up 4 times the amount. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah.
And this is a number that is not set in stone. So depending on how many people opt in or out, we can always adjust it next year.
Right. And we did have several rounds of, of just discussions with the health insurance committee in vetting the amounts and feeling out what would work, what wouldn't work. And that was part of the survey data as well.
Mm-hmm. Again, this is, we're trying to bring ideas to the table that don't negatively impact employees, right? We can increase monthly premiums. We can increase out-of-pocket maxes or co-pays, but those will negatively, if you increase the monthly premium, that affects every single person that works at the county that takes insurance. If you increase an out-of-pocket maximum or a deductible, that affects all of the people using the health plan that are on it. This is a way to truly try to bypass that. Every year and every few years, we've done a good job of kind of tweaking the plan here and there. But we felt that this is more of a benefit to employees to choose. Maybe they don't need insurance because they do have it elsewhere.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for the presentation today. We unfortunately probably need to schedule this for a full hour, even just for the introduction. So it's good to see it again, second look at this this year. So let's, if we have interest in learning more, I certainly have many questions that are going to go unanswered today. So, but for purposes of staying on our schedule, we appreciate the update and the check back, and we'll look forward to having this happen again.
Thank you. Please reach out with any questions. Dawn can get you our contact information.
Yep.
Thank you all.
Thanks, folks.
Thanks, Sarah.
Take care.
Thanks, Mike.
Sarah, thanks, Mike.
Bye-bye.
We're at the time for the work session to begin regarding the Dubuque County Grant Program. I believe we need to, Auditor Dragato, I appreciate very much your extensive memo that you put in our packet. And I know that that took a great deal of time, so thank you for leading on this. I asked that that we have the auditor and the county attorney provide us with some information so that all three of us are aware of some things that have come to light about the grant program in the county. Kevin, if you want to maybe give some context about how you got to this point, that would be helpful.
Well, good morning again. I'm the new guy. That's how I got to this point. Sitting in a work session with the State of Iowa Auditor's Office, I was made aware of a memo they sent out in May, sort of right in the middle of COVID hitting, and counties, cities, states trying to dump as much money where they can to help people in their time of need. And the opinion referenced a section of Iowa code that talked about public funds not being used to fund private nonprofits. And that the very specific set of parameters sort of around those situations. And that sort of precipitated a whole bunch of questions. The state of Iowa has a auditors group where we communicate with, and we have a number of new auditors this year. So as you might imagine, a number of questions from the new auditors saying, what are we doing? How are we doing it? And within what parameters should we be doing it? So about a month ago, this occurred. And from that point forward, I started to pull together different opinions, legal opinions, different memos, different emails, and contact other auditors across the state to sort of see what they're doing and how they're doing it. And at the end of the day, the bottom line is that my advice is that we re-look at how we are administering the grant program. That there are a number of things that we can be doing to make us more in compliance with state law. And some of those things revolve around items as easy as better reporting and follow through and finding out that the funds that we're offering are serving a public purpose. Everything sort of hinges around this public purpose. And that's a broad statement that can be as easy as the public purpose is the initiatives of the board, and it can also be something that benefits the public as a whole rather than as an individual. So that's where we're at. I'm not here to tell you what to do or who to do it with. I'm here to simply suggest that we take a look at the program and sort of build it in reverse, backing into where we need to be as far as being compliant with the code and looking at a much more structure in the grant program. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I see CJ's on here, and I think he did send out a letter to the board and a number of other people yesterday. So you have that information as well.
I asked that we have this conversation today because there was a group starting to meet. Some of our highest paid county employees are starting to meet more than once a week to start redesigning our grant program. And I kind of said, whoa, we better, I don't know that we want to be investing significant time and energy, employee resources in redesigning a program without the supervisors having some basic conversation about this and determining what direction we want to go. I'm also very concerned because we have many nonprofits who have applied to us this year, and we haven't made decisions about their requests, and some of them are for operating expenses, and we need to craft a message of some kind to those nonprofits, indicating something that we're going to ask them for more information. I'm assuming you're getting calls like I am, wondering what's the holdup? Why don't we know anything about the requests that are pending with us? So I thought it would be good that the three supervisors at least be discussing the issues that are raised by the county attorney and by our auditor to put better oversight into whatever we're going to do. We're going to need to make some significant changes, I think. And, and I don't know how we feel about the many folks that have applications pending.
Supervisor McDonough, there's an argument to be made that where the public purpose comes in, that you three directly represent that public purpose. All three of you are elected to office. We can make the argument that what's important to you is important to the public. And so we could look at it from that perspective and identify what those priorities may be. And then we can sort of figure out which approach is best for each of those priorities. But a lot of it starts there, I think.
Right. And if you look at the Henry County audit, that tells you that it's not just three people saying it looks good. There's because that Henry County was directed that they should ask for the funds back, right? So the county attorneys there were told to go get that money back. You did it inappropriately. So just saying it looks good, there needs to be some kind of construction about this program so that we have a public purpose that's well defined, even though it's up to we three.
And what I'm not aware of with the Henry County example is sort of what structures they were putting in place.
Exactly.
I have had conversations with other auditors across the state who are operating their programs similarly to ours, as far as at least who they're granting those funds to. The main difference is a much more tightly controlled accounting process and a much more tightly controlled follow-up. And I think if you asked any person who writes grants for a living or anybody who's going out there soliciting organizations for funds, the chances that they get 100% of their ask are next to nothing. So there are a lot of things that we can treat it in that manner. That the letter of the law, maybe not, but the spirit of the law, we can certainly get in there.
Well, I would think we're probably gonna have to, I guess, how should I say, reopen it up to these that have applied with the new application, and there's gonna have to be a section as that defines the public purpose that these funds are gonna be used for. And maybe instead of giving them, let's say they apply for 10,000 or whatever, but it'd be more of I guess, kind of like the state does. They're paying it up front and then they bill us on the back end to show us where the money was spent. You follow what I'm saying? Instead of giving them money up front, they have to submit the bill where the money was spent, showing what it was used for.
I follow that. I'm not against, and in fact, probably in support of the idea of sort of a reimbursement basis there, but I don't, I would be cautious about doing that with 50 different entities. That becomes I'm sitting here next week asking for another body. That's a significant amount of work. And, some of these can be done with, some of our larger asks can probably be structured in a way where we have, a contract and where we are sort of treating it how we sort of treat general assistance right now at this very moment. They're operating a program for the county. All those bills, all those claims are paid through our office. It could be something similar like that, similar to that. That's not going to benefit the smaller organizations asking for the smaller dollars, the 5,000s, the 10,000s, even the 20,000s. So we will have to come up with some way that sort of satisfies the test that CJ and I have been applying to this to see if we can make it work.
I guess I was looking more at, okay, how many will not reapply if they see what the guidelines are, and obviously state law, I'm assuming there'd be several that would not reapply, but I don't know either. I'd give the ones that applied the opportunity to reapply if they wanted to, and then we'd have to figure something out from there.
I mean, to be clear, this is a program that for the county here and for other counties across the state has done excellent work. We're not out there funding organizations that aren't directly contributing to the community in the most positive of ways. There are ways for us to do some of these things. It just has to be more structured.
Right.
And that's so that's kind of where I would jump in. One, I would agree that I'm glad the Board of Supervisors having this discussions, because I think the general direction and structure should come from the supervisors with obviously counsel from others. And so that brings me to my question is if the county attorney has reviewed this and has any, main parameters that we should follow. That would be my first thought. The second thought would be the city of Dubuque offers, purchase of service grants as well. And some of them are the same that we do. And so would we be better to make sure that the structure or format aligns to both the city and the county, just for simplicity and or hopefully there's strength in numbers related to our, being in compliance. So, Mr. CJ, that would be directed to you just to comment as far as one, our program as is, and two, if you can make recommendations in the future, I would be very interested in that, along with the auditor's view on it as well.
Sure. So I not to repeat what Kevin said by any means, but there's nothing that has been wrong per se in the past. I think moving forward, it's like anything that we learn as we go, there's probably just a better way of doing things. So I don't think you're going to get hamstringed in any way with the public purpose part of it. I mean, if it's not a public purpose, I think it'd be pretty obvious to all of you. Right? And so, but I do think it does just require your analysis to see just to make certain. I think where you'd really find that it's the public purpose is if you had, like I mentioned in my letter to all of you, a 2080 agreement or some sort of a contractual document that, puts, and you're right, Supervisor Potoff, there might be some that will find this, if it's too hard, or if it's too involved, they might seek the funds elsewhere, and that's fine. But I do think that if you had sort of an accounting system that was tied to this, you would be able to monitor that, and that would show you pretty clearly, in my opinion, that a public purpose is being served merely by the bills that are being paid or the expenditures that are being made out of the funds that you grant. So, Supervisor Wickham, to me, yeah, it would make sense if we had a consistent system that the city has, and I'd be happy to get a hold of Ms. Brumwell and find out exactly how they do things on their end, so that maybe we could work kind of in tandem with that to set something up for the county.
I think that'd be wonderful, CJ, if you would do that. That would be helpful, because one of the things that when you look at the individual auditors' opinions and the attorney general's opinions that have come down over the years, there's, lots of caution about best practice, don't do this. Best practice, you want to have no risk, don't do this at all. Best practice, make sure that you never fund operating expenses, because boy, is it hard to figure out how that money going to salary is public purpose, and why isn't that person on your payroll as a county employee? Just a lot of nuance to this. There's no litigated standard for public purpose. So I really think, the way to do this is the documentation and the grant application itself needs to be significantly more strenuous. And I think that might be what Supervisor Potoff is saying about whether or not somebody wants to go through these hurdles for a $5,000 ask or something. But I would like to say the program's a bit on pause, kind of like the J&J vaccine, hopefully coming off pause quickly. But to get us a standard that appears that maybe folks who've been using this high scrutiny lens have determined a way forward. It would make me feel more comfortable, in terms of saying, yeah, that's a good thing. But I think we have applications from 30 some people, 30 organizations pending. And I think that's an immediate thing for my colleagues. What do we want to communicate to those individuals? No, they're not expecting to be funded before July 1st, but we are here midway into April. So do you think it's appropriate to send an update to those applicants to say that there might be a series of other things they have to do? I don't know.
Well, I think if you would, and I don't want to, speak for how you want to go about it, Supervisor McDonough, but some of those, I don't know what they are, of course, but maybe, a quick look at those would tell you, maybe not all of them have to wait, I guess is what I'm kind of driving at here. Maybe there are some that you can go ahead and process. It's pretty clear to you that, that it is a public purpose, and that, maybe they take all the funds you give them and they spend it on one thing kind of immediately. I don't know, but, it would seem to me that if there's, a process like that, that maybe those would be, on the front end of being approved, and the others that are a little more protracted, maybe they have to wait until we can iron this out.
And to CJ's point, with some of those, we can probably affect the back end. We can start to institute different tracking mechanisms and different asks as far as what we need reporting wise from these organizations that may not necessarily affect or change the way they applied in the first place. So that's definitely a possibility there.
Well, we've granted.
My vantage point.
Go ahead, please, Jay.
My vantage point was we did two good things during the budget process. One, we appropriated the funds to be available July 1. That's good. The second thing we did was we were going to spend time and energy, maybe, revisiting this. I think that's what we should do. And so I think we should do just what we're doing now, have these discussions, try to formulate a strategy and approach, and then complete that by July 1. I think that's the best way forward. I'd be less interested in doing any appropriations directly to one or two of the agencies now. I'd like to get the program right with the auditor's guidance, the attorney's guidance, and whatever best practice is, but make those changes so that the board and those supporting people are comfortable with that. I think now's the time. The other thing that's right behind this, which might be really good, is the American Rescue Plan Act. So, the county is going to be receiving, along with the city, tens of millions of dollars that may be appropriated to various organizations. So I think spending time getting this right and papering it up and getting the process and outlines directed in what we think is the best and best practices and legal and would comply with auditing standards is exactly what we should do between now and July.
We did make a grant award to Greater
Greater
Dubuque
Dubuque, I
Development.
believe.
Right. Let's
Yeah.
get
Well, that one's
that.
done.
Well, it's awarded, but it isn't, the paperwork's not done. We're going to need to go back and draft something, a contract, and I think they'll be very agreeable, but certainly the city of Dubuque must use something with them, right? They're a funder as well. So maybe we can ask Ms. Brumwell for a copy of whatever they use to transfer funds to Greater Dubuque, and that'll give us that starting point to see, what they're using there. I mean, that's clearly public purpose, which is economic development. But I'd like to be doing that in the arms of some kind of process that creates the paper trail and lets it all be known that that's the reason why we've given the funding.
And that's the trick here. That's at the end of the day, that's what we're looking to do, is to create that trail and to be able to stand up and say, here's what we've done. So that's, you hit the nail on the head.
Well, maybe we can finish where we began. It was stated that there was other employees working on this. Well, who would the board like to work on this? Who would the board like to lead this? Because I think we do need, bodies to go over the details and the numbers and the language.
I
So I've already thrown out the attorney and the auditor.
Right.
So you guys are in.
Well, I think the budget director needs to be an integral part of this, I would say. The budget director as
Agreed.
well. And she will be walking us next on our first work session in May. She will be bringing the American Rescue Plan to us, Jay, and walking through those details. So I think because of the similarity, I would expect that Stella can ask for those that she wishes to have be in the room as well. As an arm, she's already doing this program for us to date, so she's got that kind of understanding.
I'm comfortable with her taking the lead.
I'm the same. I guess I would kind of agree with you, Ann, on the notifying the ones that haven't been funded as to, where we stand on this, that they're kind of aware that, they may have to reapply or there's going to be a little more scrutiny on public purpose of the funds.
Right. And I'd like to be engaged on this as well, unless someone has an objection to that.
I'm fine with that. I think if you want to take the lead on behalf of the board of supervisors, I think that'd be wonderful.
Very good. So is there anything further from Kevin or CJ on this, or my colleagues?
No, I appreciate everybody's patience, including the people who have applied, and I appreciate the help and support from CJ and all the other people across the state that are going to help us get this right. So thank you both. Thank you all.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, CJ.
You bet. Thank you.
Okay, if it's fine, let's move on to our next work session, which is the Dubuque County Emergency Loan Program. I think there's Matt from ECIA joining us. Good morning, Matt. He's a guest. Is there anyone else who's going to speak to this issue? I think, Ed, you're going to give us some general discussion as well.
Kelly
and
Dykemeyer.
I know, CJ, you also issued a piece of correspondence to us, an email on this as well. So
Yes.
Matt, why don't we begin with you?
Okay, I'll just add Kelly Dykemeyer from ECIA is also on.
Oh, fantastic. I didn't see her, so very good.
Here too, Ann.
Good morning.
Morning.
Okay, Matt, do you want to kind of give us the background?
Yeah, so I think the memo was sent out to everybody. Last summer when COVID hit, the county authorized a COVID emergency loan fund for $200,000 to lend out to county businesses affected, loans up to $10,000. We lent out to 19 different businesses. To date, 15 of those businesses are current. One is paid back in full. And then we do have one that's 30 days past, one 60-day past, and one is 90 days past. That's why we're coming to the board to kind of see how to proceed with these delinquent or loans in default. We have from ECIA's side of it, we have made numerous phone calls, texts, letters, emails out to these borrowers that are past due. We have been unsuccessful with reaching them. The ones that are actually 60 and 90 days past have both received certified letters from us asking that we be contacted so we can try and resolve the past due payments. I guess we're, like I said, in the loan procedures, it talked about meeting with the supervisors once a loan reaches 90 days past to see how they want to move forward. So.
Is
Why don't I,
Go ahead,
Supervisor Wickham, go ahead.
The first thing I'll comment on is just to compliment ECIA and the rest of the board of responding quickly with both this loan and the Dubuque Initiative loan to the private businesses in Dubuque. And so it was very much needed. And generally speaking, a very high majority of them are in compliant and have used the funds as directed. So I think it's been a win, and I think it's a good way that both obviously the federal government, state government, and then local government was very responsive to these small businesses when they were just getting crushed and were physically closed, some of them. So that's kind of a good job, and so I appreciate you doing that. My other question would be, this is kind of what you've been doing for quite a few years at ECI Business Growth and ECIA. How do you normally handle those that either are delinquent, and or how would you advise us to handle those clients that we feel need a little more attention?
These are when we turn it over to our attorney with ECI Business Growth, just because we do not have the expertise. Like I said, we've kind of exhausted, between our phone calls, our letters. Now it always seems like you need to get a little more teeth out there. And usually that's when we pass it off to our attorney, because there's certain guidelines he would follow, then whether it be the letters or the notices that he has to do. Again, it's kind of out of our realm of our expertise.
Matt, isn't it true these are a little different in that they're not secured loans like our loans are? Typically our loans are all secured with some type of collateral, and these loans aren't. So it's slightly different than the big loans we do with business growth.
That is correct too.
That's another question as to how you'd want to proceed there. I mean, I think, basically these would have to go to collections versus us, doing anything else, because there is no collateral. But I also think whatever you do here sets a precedence, because there are 19 loans. So there's 3 loans, 130, 160, 190. So whatever you do, sets a precedence for the other 16 that are, are actually, one's paid off. So the other 14 that are out there, I wouldn't want to see any of them say, oh, look at, loan A, B, and C, they just wrote off. I guess they can write us off too. So, it's just however you feel you want us to proceed, we can do. There would be attorney fees involved. And so I would ask that you take that into consideration too when we do pass it on to our attorney.
Well, certainly there's no discussion, and from my perspective, it's not going to happen that anything's going to be written off or forgiven or just look the other way. That's not what happens when you take out a government loan. Certainly there's empathy, and there can be the follow through and options and extensions, and all those things are all things that can be offered and negotiated. I don't want to be the heavy hand, but we do expect the loan recipients to comply with the terms of the agreement. And if they won't respond to us in any way, and there might be various circumstances based on the particulars of these individual cases, which we don't have here in this document, and I'm not suggesting that we do any kind of deep dive into that, but there's lots of tools for collection short of bringing in an attorney, usually, if you can get somebody to have a conversation with you. So, I would never want it to be for a minute that we're gonna look the other way, or these are just gonna be forgiven. That's not the case.
Right, I
Well,
would agree with you, Ann, on that. There's plenty of other options where, restructure the loan, whatever we need to do, but it's not gonna be written off. They have to come to the table,
yeah.
but if they're not responding to Matt or ECIA or anyone, well, you don't have a whole lot of other options but to move forward and, let them know we're serious, that it has to be taken care of. You have to come back to the table and let's redraw up something that will work, for you.
CJ, what is your thought, CJ, about hiring outside counsel? I mean, that's what this sounds like. There's going to be other counsel involved in this. And I had asked for a copy of the scope of services attachment A, and I didn't see that, but just wondering, how do you want to proceed? I mean, we're going to be turning to you for advice. I don't want you to micromanage from a legal perspective a $5,000 loan, right? We have other business to be attending to at the county attorney's office.
So here, I have a question first, if I could. Kelly can answer this. There was, in one of the documents that was attached, without mentioning the name, it had a copy, Kelly, of the promissory note from one of those folks, which is it's an LLC, and I see the note was only signed by the member manager on behalf of the LLC. Was that the same for all of these? Because it looks like the other two one's a corporation and the other one's an LLC also.
Matt would have to answer that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull it up. It's usually whoever the authorized signature is we had signed.
Okay. So the next question is then none of these had like a personal guarantee by, LLCs can often just be one person, and no.
The way these were set up originally, personal guarantees were not required.
Okay, all right. So it was just signed on behalf of the corporations, as the case may be. Okay, very good. Well, a couple things, and the note provides that in addition to obviously paying the principal and the interest accrued, that if they were in default and it led to other fees, including attorney fees, that the borrower was to pay the attorney fees. So that's in the contracts. I assume they're all the same. I guess collections is always sort of a dicey thing. I mean, I understand that often when it gets to this point, that you don't hear much in response, and that sort of only leaves you to sort of guess what their intentions are. But I think there's a lot of data out there that says once an account gets like more than 90 days past due, like the chances of payment go down dramatically, and that's just kind of the way of the world. But I think so we have $30,000 that's out there plus the interest on it. I think it's worth pursuing. Perhaps, if outside counsel was to send a letter and kind of outline what would happen next with a certain deadline imposed, if the debtor doesn't comply, maybe that would give a little bit more push, perhaps. But I think I think if it comes to having to file suit, then I think you have to be ready to go do that step, because and you can always reach some other agreement with the folks or whatnot, but unfortunately that's usually what it kind of comes down to in collections. It just does. Now I would point out, I guess, that since these are all LLCs, and two are and one's a corporation, that's the entity against whom you'd have the judgment. And if the entity is in fact insolvent or doesn't really have any assets, without any other personal guarantee, by an individual, you're sort of left with a document that says the LLC owes you $10,000 plus interest and attorney fees, and there's nothing there. There's kind of nothing there, and I sort of just the reality of it. But perhaps again, maybe a move from an attorney with a letter and outlining what would become forthcoming if they don't start getting out of default. Maybe that would help. That's all you can kind of hope for.
Well, I don't have any benefit of seeing what you have, CJ, about promissory notes and all those things. I don't have any of that.
I don't know where I got it from. Let's see here.
So, and I'm not going to do a separate legal analysis anyway,
Yeah.
other than for my own personal purpose. But it seems to me we should get some kind of idea. I would ask ECIA to get some kind of legal schedule or identifying information about who your counsel is. And so we can have conversation with that person, because if they have to go to collection, then that's the next step. And we have to protect the integrity of the program and future programs. I would much rather have this conversation be about how do we extend the next $200,000 than have it be how do we go collect some of the, the ones that haven't worked out. But I guess that's how we learn for the whole process.
And I think that's a good point. That's where I started. So I think I would focus on the successes and the businesses that benefit from this. The other piece that I'll just mention for everyone's familiarity again is that both from the state, federal government, trillions of dollars have been provided in forgivable loans. A PPP program is a forgivable loan. There's going to be a restaurant revitalization grant program administered through the SBA, which will dump billions of dollars to businesses. So the precedent of government sending money directly to taxpayers' homes and directly to businesses is very much in the times we are currently in. And so I would caution us spending a lot of time and energy chasing down 3 businesses that are closed. You're probably better off spending your time in other directions.
And I don't know if they're closed or not. I mean, I don't know. It's in the double blind. I have no idea. I'm asking for some kind of professional help to get us to that point, Jay, to say, yeah, this one's not going to happen. I don't need to be at the district court
and I think
or
that's
small claims court
ECIA's role.
Tomorrow, right?
That's
But we got to
ECIA's
move
role,
forward.
in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. So do we want to hear back from ECIA then on what the attorney's role is going to be and how big are these loans? And I don't know.
I would want to follow their normal process, generally speaking. What do they normally do? And I know they're a little different, but that's what I'd be looking for ECIA's guidance on. That's my positioning of it.
That's what I asked for today, was their normal process. And what we got was the April 12th letter. So I don't know if there's more to the normal process or not. I think that's why we asked them to be here.
Excuse me, and I'll just put something in here. This typically, it isn't really our normal process because business growth would hold our revolving loan funds and the SBA holds our SBA 504 loans. So we have to follow the SBA's process. So it is a little different in this case. I think we could follow the Dubuque County revolving loan process. Our attorney is Jeff Walters. So what we would do is turn this over to him. But what we wanted is your guidance as to how you want this pursued, because obviously without these loans being secured, they would need to go to collections, or I'm not familiar with small claims court, so I don't know, are these over the limit for small claims court? I'm assuming they are. They are.
On small claims.
Okay, so that wouldn't be an option, but what our guidance, what we wanted to know is, how do you want these pursued? Should we turn them over to our attorney? And if there are costs associated to that, how do you want to proceed with that? Or do you want that in a separate memo that says, this is, we'll turn them over to Jeff Walters. These are the 3 loans. These are the 3 amounts. And this is the process we're going to follow to try to pursue those.
I think we should follow the revolving loan fund process. Don't you think, Jay, Harley? And are you setting up a separate process?
I think we can. We just don't have a lot of history probably on those in the last 3 to 5 years, but so there's not a lot of precedents, and we're in unprecedented time. My vantage point after what I've heard right now is I would ask ECIA to continue to reach out and relate to those businesses, all of them, both successfully that have complied with their loan and those that are, starting to become delinquent, and work with them for another 90 days and then come back to the board.
Sounds good. Harley?
Yeah, that's fine. See if we can get them to the board, or I guess, or get them to ECIA at least to the table. And if we can restructure something to get them back in compliance would be great. Obviously,
I think that's good for us to know, to put that on the table, that we could offer some type of restructuring. So that's a good suggestion. Thank you. Harley and Jay, for suggesting that. I think that would be a good option to talk with them if we can get them to the table. I also think CJ saying that if we would use an attorney to contact them. So if we had Jeff send a letter, which wouldn't cost much to do, it might get them to at least answer our calls. Because at this point, they're just not responding to us, which I think is typical of anybody who's, closing their business or has a lot of debt. I'm sure there's other people chasing after them, not just us.
Right, and if Jeff would put in the letter that, we're open to renegotiate the loan, the promissory note, CJ said, has in it that they are responsible for attorney fees, so whatever Jeff charges gets added onto their loan, I guess, for the time being. If, if we can get something restructured, obviously if the business is closed, well, I guess the county's gonna have to eat it. And
Not
that would be
necessarily.
mine.
Right, not necessarily. Business closure, that's fine. It doesn't necessarily mean that, but
Yeah.
we want them to have conversation. We can assume that they are distressed, continuing to be in distress, and that is not the time to be heavy, but for the purpose of the program, we have to pursue this.
Right.
And we have a comment here from Kevin Dragato to me. He'd like to at least see the letter from ECIA before that goes out. So if you could send that.
Good idea.
The one from our attorney?
Kevin's saying yes. We'd like to see that, so we're aware at this point.
Just so we're all on the same page with
Yep.
what's going out and we have that knowledge, so.
Yep, agreed. Very good. Is there anything further on this matter today at this time? Anybody got questions, comments?
None for me.
None from me.
Thank you, Kelly and Matt.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Matt.
And
Thanks,
CJ,
Kelly.
thank you. CJ, thank you. Our next work session is with EB Lions well, not with EB Lions because that's physically not possible, but we're going to talk about some framework that we have. The Conservation Board has agreed to something. They did approve something, and apparently we have a need to do something additional. So I'd like to know who's in charge of this.
I can comment. I don't know if I'm in charge of it, but yes, and others can fill in as far as the Conservation Board. So since I sit on that board, the Conservation Board did discuss this a few times over the last maybe 12 months related to a partnership. Probably the most notable was, I believe, a 3-2 vote to move forward with the partnership. And then the supporting document that was provided in our packet today was generally the similar or very close, if not identical, to the information that was provided to the Conservation Board. So the Conservation Board did vote just in the last 30 days to move this forward to the Board of Supervisors. That was one of my specific questions to the director at the moment. Would this go to the supervisors pending this decision? And it was yes. And so now it's in front of us, and I know there's probably others on the phone that might want to comment, but that's a little bit of the background. But it's been going on for over a year, I think. So there's been discussion about this for at least a year that I'm familiar with.
Well, I'm not sure what is before us today. In Ed's memo, it talks about supervisors, plural, having questions. I'm not sure. I don't know that I'm not sure that there's more work that I need done. I have been in contact with some of the folks on this that I see out in our cyber world today, but certainly board members and Brian Preston, and it's a matter of timing. When should this come before the Board of Supervisors to be approved or at least up for a final vote? So that's where I guess I am. And Brian, I think you're with us. And you're
I think
unmuted as well.
And so I'll jump in. So I think it's a work session today. So I think that's a good thing. I think, the Conservation Board forwarded this as a work session. So I think there's things to discuss. So I'm very, very glad that the board's doing that. And then whenever you are interested in my comments, I'd be happy to provide them to my fellow colleagues.
Well, I think, Jay, that we are here, I think, at your request. So why don't you go ahead with your comments?
Yeah, and it wasn't my request, other than, it was process and procedure. So, I think, if things had come out, contracts and agreements normally go to the Board of Supervisors. So it was more standard process than Jay Wickham bringing it to the board. So one, if you've read the contents of the document and the outline, those are included and they'll give you some background. But, one, I'm excited about the opportunity. So I think having the opportunity to move forward with a partnership group with a lot of great groups, because I'm an advocate for conservation. I love parks. And so this is definitely the world that piques my interest. So I'm hoping that we'd be able to go forward with some type of agreement, because I just think that would be good for the community. So that said, the agreement, generally speaking, I just have kind of two issues with that I would change, and then I would give my support, at least from the Conservation Board and certainly as a Board of Supervisors for. And those are really the areas of employment on there. So the current language that's generally been drafted by the city talks about the county requiring one full-time employee, a new naturalist. So I don't like that. I'd like all county employees to be determined by, one, those departments and their needs, and then two, approved by the Board of Supervisors. I don't like to have those in other agreements, at least for 10 years, because you're committing to $500,000 with other governmental agencies. And I think we should make our own individual hiring decisions. And so I just like to have that removed. I'd love another naturalist. I actually voted on the board for additional naturalists. I just do not want it in a 2080 agreement. The second piece was on maintenance. And so, we don't own the Mines of Spain. That is owned by the state. We don't own the EB Lions building. That is ownership, I do believe, either jointly or solely by the city of Dubuque. And obviously the Friends of the Mines of Spain has been wonderful and have done tremendous things out at the Mines of Spain, and tremendous just launching and getting EB Lions as far as the building created. So they deserve a lot of credit for, one, carrying the ball for quite a while, and then two, trying to find partners to help them as the state and the city have possibly backed off a little bit. And so that just brings me to my third point, but I would remove maintenance. So I don't have any interest in paying for maintenance of a building we don't own. We have already 20 some parks that need some love and need some maintenance, and our strategic plan identifies that. And there are quite a few local governments that also would love us to pay for their community centers and or their buildings as well. And so we might want to be careful starting to pay for maintenance on other government buildings we don't own. And then my last just comment, we're the smallest of these agencies, of the government. So the state, they've got plenty of money. It's just a matter of priority. Okay. So, this must not be a priority for them. The city, their budget's also a lot larger than ours. The Parks and Rec budget's probably 3 times our conservation budget. And what I'm very proud of in the last 5 years, the investment we've made in Dubuque County Conservation has been pretty significant, and maybe even doubling of, the previous 5 years. And I don't see that from the state. I don't see that from the city. And so, they have the ability to pay, they have the ability to participate, and I would really encourage them to do just that, so that we all are partners in this together. But I will go back to my first comments is that I do love the Mines of Spain. I think the Friends groups are tremendous, and those volunteers, just like our Friends group at County Conservation is. And generally, I think an agreement makes sense. I just think we need to change some of the terms so it works for Dubuque County.
I think the document that's missing here is the proposed budget, because certainly there's a lot of items indicating in the operational budget who's going to pay for what. Your comment, Jay, about a new employee, I think that's our business, not anybody else's, whether that's a new employee or a reassigned employee. I'm guessing that's semantics, that's just a word that might indicate what the consensus is in terms of how the county is going to get to the ability to do the things set forth in the agreement. So I don't have a problem with, the person doesn't necessarily have to be new on a bad day. It might be that it's a current or existing naturalist that's assigned there. It's my understanding we could really benefit from, the county could benefit from the space to do the significant work that's going to be done with the interpretive center. So, and then, you know, we're expected to provide in page 3, provide the day-to-day maintenance of the center. Maybe we need a better definition of whatever. I think day-to-day maintenance is, you know, the light bulbs, turning off the water. The day-to-day maintenance is the trash. You know, I think that's a, I guess I'm not sure what more you want to see on the maintenance issue. We're not doing really any maintenance other than the day-to-day like you would if you were renting a house. So I'm not sure what the actual I don't see the concerns, I guess.
Well, maybe I'll comment that, you know, it does in section 4, you know, if you look at it on the page, says employ a new full-time naturalist. So, you know, words matter. And so I'm looking for consensus that you would want to remove new from there, or, you know, employ. And so that's, you know, that's what I'm looking to get, is if we can change some of the language so it's not so onerous, you know, I think we could have an agreement. But I mean, do you support a new, and I mean, do my colleagues support adding a new person based on this agreement? I mean, it's still also stand down. I'm just trying to understand where we're at.
We already did in our budget.
This would be another one. I mean,
no, it's not another one. It's the same person.
What we decided on the budget was independent. I mean, so I would like that clarified. So, I mean, what we decided wasn't based upon this agreement. Agreement's still in front of us. We decided to employ a new time naturalist in the budgeting process. We didn't have this agreement in front of us. We didn't decide on it, and we still haven't decided on it. So that's the clarity I'm looking for.
I think that is the same person. Brian, are you here, Brian Preston? Is it the same person?
Well, that's what he says, but the contract says new. And when you sign that, new means additive. So, well, I mean, I think this all that's for is clarity. And I'm not trying to, I just want clarity on how
this
many
agreement
full-time
was
naturalists
dated
we're going to add.
February 11th. You know, we'll strike the word new. We're definitely going to employ somebody. That's what we do. We employ naturalists. That's what we do. I think we're really good at it. We find great people. They're part of an amazing department. So you can strike the word new and just let it be that we'll employ a full-time naturalist for that center. Does that work?
If you want to commit to 10 years of that, then it does. I don't think we should commit to 10 years of doing that. I think you'd want to have future conservation boards and future boards of supervisors determining employment. That's my stance.
I think what we'd be committing to is staffing it with a naturalist, whether it's a new or
for
an old
years.
or
Correct.
Right, for 10 years.
For 10 years.
Right.
Yeah, 10 years is a long time. It's $500,000. I mean, so I just don't want to contractually agree to that. That's not how we do our union contracts. It's not how we have our employment status. I just don't think we should enter an agreement to do that as well. It just handcuffs future boards.
Is it length of time then, Jay, or what would be your proposed language? We'd have the option to employ a naturalist. I mean, the idea is to staff a center that needs people.
Options. Give us options. Give us the freedom and flexibility, meaning Dubuque County. Don't have your partners force your hand. You know, go into things willingly. And this is saying you're going to hire that person for 10 years. I wouldn't do that. We don't have to do that.
I think we intend to have a naturalist for 10 years. Go ahead, Harley. Maybe there's something I'm missing here.
They're agreeing to pay for a portion of his wages for 10 years also, correct?
Half.
Right. So they're agreeing to pay half of his wages for 10 years. I guess that to me is kind of a win-win. I mean, I understand your point, Jay.
I don't know if it's half, it's 50 grand. So, you know, we're going to, agreement's going to cost us we're committing to over $500,000. And so that's, you know, and I love conservation. We spend a lot of money on conservation, and every year Conservation Board approves a budget. Every year Board of Supervisors approve a budget. So I just think it's unwise to enter into contracts and agreements that limit those abilities to make changes, because we don't have to. We're a good partner. We're trustworthy. We don't have to do 10 years and lock ourselves in.
And so Jay, the question is, how long do you want this to be for?
Well, I wouldn't want to, well, based on the terms, I'd like to have it removed, the employment provision removed. Okay. If all things that cost us a lot of money are removed, then I'm okay with a longer term. But if you know, if it's a compromise and we need to have those items in, or the board would like to have those items in, then I would say, let's do a shorter term.
And what would that be?
But generally my request is to remove that requirement.
Right, but you still haven't told us how long you want the agreement to be for.
I did. I would take a shorter term if you remove the monetary constraints and the hiring constraints. I would take a longer term. If you remove those, I would take a longer term. If the board wants those in, I don't, then I would say a shorter term, say 3 years, you know, or 2 years, you know, so they'll, I don't know why we have to agree to those. Nobody else is. Nobody else is sending us any money. You know, when's the last time the city of Dubuque sent us money for a partnership? When's the last time they sent conservation?
They're paying a portion of the naturalist wages, so they want to, I guess, protect their side of it.
Agreed. It's their building. They own the building, and the park. They're asking to have annexation options for the land as well. So yes, I understand. You know, they're gonna want to pay because it's their building, like the city of Peosta. Yeah, they're going to pay for all of their rec center. City of Dyersville, they're going to pay for their centers and their facilities because they own them. We don't own this. We never have. And so they're asking us to be a partner. And I think that's wonderful. But do we really have to accept these terms?
Well, I mean, you could
I
look
don't
at
think
other
so.
sections too, Jay. I mean, they're willing to pay half of the costs of the naturalist costs, including training and uniforms, half of the cost of a naturalist computer and phone purchase and replacements. Half of those things. I mean, you know, that to me, that doesn't seem like a partner saying they don't want to spend any money. They're trying to, you know, they're doing what I'm doing, which is trying to open up an interpretive center that's been closed from the result of something the
Agreed.
state failed to do.
Why can't they just do it? They have the funds. They have more money than us. Why can't the city and the state just do that? The Parks and Rec budget's $6 million. They can open it up anytime they want.
I just don't know what we're going to benefit by. This is a work session, and I'm trying to see if it's ready for action. I mean, I understand that you want it changed, but I'm not sure what the terms are that you want.
The 2 items. I only want 2 items changed. Remove the employment provision and remove that we'll pay for maintenance for the building. That's been my request. I had 3. The third one was remove the annexation. That's been done. So I've been consistent through this whole thing. I just thought we should modify those items. So change the employment, remove that language. Secondly, remove the language that we're paying for maintenance for the EV Lines building. City of Dubuque should do that. Those have been my requests. The rest, I think, generally works.
Okay, so the employment thing, I guess, I don't have the contract right in front of me. I'm sorry, I didn't print that off. You just basically want the new employee or a new naturalist removed, or the new part removed, but I guess I'm taking it that we approved the new naturalist position in part for this and part for another issue that Brian was working on, where I don't know where that one stands. So I'm a little confused there, but.
You know, if we don't have a naturalist at the center, if the county doesn't have a naturalist at the center, new, old, whatever, then that we have to staff it somehow. We are in agreement that the county will staff the center? Do we think that's a good idea? The county's going to staff it? And then if so, if we don't enter into an agreement with the city, then we're going to pay all of the naturalist costs, right? We may end up with a more expensive employee because the city's not going to help us with any of the expenses.
One, I don't think that's true. And two, if it would be, they'd at least be under our control and direction in our employment process, not tied into an agreement for 10 years. We don't have to have this language in the agreement.
Well,
we still can put language in there that we can have. I mean, all I'm asking is to remove the language, and if you guys both say yes, then we're done. But if you want it in, I can get it. I just don't know why you have to have it in, that we have to employ a new full-time employee. I would like that stricken. You could then replace it with language that our naturalists, Dubuque County naturalists, will reside, will provide services, whatever, but not hire an employee.
Well, I mean, that's easy.
That ties you to the budget.
Yeah. I think I think that's just a matter of the time that this agreement was reached, which was February 11th, as compared to where we were with the budget. So
I spoke with it a year ago.
I think we're saying the same thing.
12 months ago, I had these same issues and they just kept coming back. So 12 months ago, I said these same things. Go back to the conservation meeting. And they just keep appearing in the agreement. And so this is the highest level. And so if in the end we want them as a board of supervisors by majority, then they'll be in there. But I've been saying this for a year that they should be removed. So it's not new.
I would strike the word new. I would give you that. We would employ and supervise a full-time naturalist position that's going to be located. If you look at that language, the word new doesn't matter to me. I don't intend to hire a new person every year.
Would that suffice, Jay? That we would be staffing the naturalist for that center? And obviously, I believe Brian had said that you would probably move somebody else up there from the Swiss Valley Nature Center also due to crowding issues down there.
We could really use the office space.
We're getting close. And option, if you have the option, Dubuque County will have the option to do that. That gives us more flexibility, and future boards more flexibility. So yeah, I think that's wise.
Well, the staffing
contracts and agreements having.
Right, it would put another person up there if the naturalist was out doing something, that we'd still have a staff person at the center.
I think options, it's be similar to if you agreed, that we're going to have a patrol deputy in Balltown for 10 years. So that's what you're committing to. If it was, you'd have the option, then that would allow department management and it would allow supervisors more control and direction. So I think the language you're talking about.
But this agreement, the purpose of this agreement, Jay, is to open up an interpretive center. And to do that, you have to have people, right? You are not opening it up with something other than that. That's the purpose. And so if we're going to enter into any agreement, somebody's got to provide the people. And at this point, I think that's the city doesn't have a naturalist, and they shouldn't be developing a program for the same citizens we serve through Dubuque County Conservation, right? Everybody's in the county. So I don't understand why we wouldn't want a person to be there. That's the purpose of the programming. So
my point was, if you maybe don't understand it, you don't want to require that, make it a requirement of a 10-year agreement, because it will limit future conservation boards and future boards of supervisors. Okay.
I don't see that.
So I'd state that. Fair enough.
I mean, if we don't have a person, we don't have this agreement. Now, 10 years, if that's too long, certainly we can review this to see if everybody's performing correctly. We could do 7 years. We've done that with other things, reduce it from 10 years. My understanding is they went to 10 years because you asked for a long-term commitment, but we can certainly do 7 years. Does that sound more reasonable?
my main point is removing the employment provision.
In removing the requirement that we provide a staff person, what will we do
Make
then,
it
Jay?
optional. Make it optional. Make it optional. So you're not requiring that to be in an agreement for that long period of time. So remove it, make it optional. Why not? Our intent is good. The partnership is good, but you're committing conservation boards and direction and staff to this agreement, and you don't have to. I think.
Well, but the
I think you
conservation
can
board
solve
already approved this. They're good with it.
Future. Supervisor McDonough, I keep saying future. Okay.
Right.
So future,
And I'm telling
future,
right.
and the odds of any one of us being here in 9 years is, I hope we all are on the earth, but being supervisors might not be the case. So,
We're all
committing future boards is my vantage point. Is what we don't need to do that. Make it optional.
Understand that, and I heard you say that several times now, but the conservation board agreed that the current board of conservation is good with this agreement going forward 10 years. They've already voted on this, so they're comfortable taking a futuristic approach to this. I don't know how you come to an agreement to open the EB Lions Interpretive Center without putting forth a person to do that, someone to be staffed there on an ongoing basis for some length of time, whether that's 5
I
years,
agree.
7 years, or 10 years.
We're talking about language. I agree. You just want to make it mandatory. I want to make it optional.
But when
So
it's
I want
optional,
somebody
it
there.
fails.
I just don't want the agreement to force us to do that, because we don't have to. And any partner that's willing would say, agreed. What would be your comfort level?
Yeah, I don't know what a partner would sign this if we haven't made a commitment to doing anything on an ongoing basis. I mean, I wouldn't sign it if I didn't have a commitment of a person. It's about people. So I guess we're just gonna have a difference of opinion about that. What do we want to do next?
Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm Pat Ray and I'm on the Conservation Board. And from what I understand in this agreement, anytime in 10 years, we can get out of it. If the conservation don't wanna, we back out. That is in that agreement, Jay. So we're not committed to 10 years.
Right.
And
Because you have
we're
an
getting a
annual
lot of
budget.
money for the buck. I mean, I know you don't agree in some parts of this, but we're getting a lot of money for our dollars. Because we're getting a whole other building and we're not paying no rent. So I don't see why you're so wound up on the 10 years. If I run a farm, I'll say 10 years, but if we disagree, we can disagree and it ain't. And that's the way this agreement is, as I understand it. And we need the space. We're hard up for our space. So I guess that's all I have to say. I think it's foolish to turn it down.
We can ask that there be a paragraph inserted that talks about the ability to cancel the agreement. That is not in the outline. Brian Preston, can you see that that's negotiated into the agreement?
Yep.
And the removal of the word new so that we're not confused about who that's going to be, or do you have to hire a new person?
I think it's just a naturalist. I don't think it has to say a new,
Okay,
but I'll have to defer to our partners on that too, to make sure that they're okay with that.
okay. And then the other one was the maintenance. Do you need further clarification, Brian, of what day-to-day maintenance is relative to operating? Do you rent other space anywhere where you could talk about day-to-day maintenance, what that means?
We don't rent anywhere. The way I see it would be that, if a light bulb needs to be replaced, we do that. If the floor needs to be swept, we take care of that, or just, the minor day-to-day things. In the agreement, it lays out that the city would be responsible for any capital expenditures on the building for major repairs or roof or HVAC, stuff like that.
Brian, maybe in that paragraph, you can talk about inserting the word minor, provide minor, day-to-day minor maintenance. Maybe you could put that in there. That would, you know, clarify what we think we're gonna be responsible for.
Well, there is provisions to split the budget. So, I mean, if you
Correct.
you read the document, it says they're going to give us we're going to do a budget and then we're going to split it. So,
Correct.
you know, if that budget comes up to 100 grand, then we split it. If it comes up to 200 grand, then we split it. That's what you're agreeing to. And I
Right.
just think that's a mistake.
That budget's gonna be annual and it's subject to, you know, annual review and annual agreement. So I guess, Mr. Ray, Pat, that's what you're talking about, is the ability to make a change. If we can't come to a reasonable budget, obviously, the agreement would lapse.
Right.
All right, well, Brian, you're gonna get a few things clarified for us and then we'll be back. Do we want a work session? I don't know how productive this was before going to action.
Well, if you valued my input, then it was very productive. So I don't know why you question that. You know, I think the supervisors all should be heard, even if we don't agree with each other.
Absolutely, I
so-
don't mean to slight, I'm
okay.
sorry. I don't mean to
Okay.
slight.
Yeah,
No problem. Sorry if I took it that way. So, you know, I think I'd be, you know, we're trying to look consensus and I think, you know, I clearly see Supervisor McDonough wants to move forward and I'm voicing some hesitancies. Supervisor Potoff, do you have an opinion or thoughts related to some of the things we discussed and the document and how you'd like to proceed?
I
Or
mean,
not proceed?
I understand your point on the employment thing. I guess my take when we approved the naturalist takes, the new position takes effect July 1st, where we're kind of aware of this agreement or this being in the works. And then along with the other agreement that Brian was working with the city on a naturalist, that all kind of came into play when we approved the new naturalist. So I guess my take was the new naturalist was going to be there if this agreement went through. The maintenance thing, yeah, there could be a little more clarification on that. You know, it's their building, I understand that, but there's not too many instances where we're giving the city payment for an employee either. You know, and they're paying for half of this employee, so it's kind of like, well, you got to give and take a little bit. If we pay for the whole employee and they pay for all the maintenance, it's probably going to come out about the same. So it's, you know, it's just a matter of where you want to say the money's going. But overall,
and that is true.
Overall, I mean, I really want this to go through because I think it is a win-win for the county and for the city to get this place back up and running. There's a lot of people out there this time of the year. I've been getting emails continuously on it. And there's a lot of people in favor of this that really want this to move forward.
Agreed. So shall we,
I will.
let's, go ahead, Brian.
But I'm just looking for direction. Do you want me to get back with the partners? Try to iron out some of that language for next Monday?
Well, we don't have a work session next Monday. It's our last meeting of the month. So what we will do is we can have a work session on our first meeting in May, and then you can also, you know, let's see if we're close enough to a final agreement so the city can start drafting the 28E. I know that that's what the purpose of the outline is. It sets the bullet points for the city to draft a 28E agreement. So there's some work to do, but let's get it back before us then on the I think it's May 3rd.
Yes, May 3rd. Yeah.
So with some
Well,
agreed upon language.
My last comment, just for the board and others to consider, is would you do the same thing in Cascade? Would you do the same thing in Dyersville? And so each city has their own taxes, their own property taxes. And so what we are doing is subsidizing the city of Dubuque. The city of Dubuque has property taxes to pay for their Parks and Rec programs. We collect these funds are from all the county. from every citizen in the city and in unincorporated areas. And so I just be cautious when we jump into the largest city who has the most money to subsidize, you know, a building that they have and the lands that they own. Because, you know, does it really help the city of Dyersville residents? Does it help others? And so if, you know, we're willing to offer that to all, you know, I think that makes sense. But, you know, they have their own tax dollars. They have the ability to do this themselves.
Agreed. And if we didn't want this, and if we didn't want school buses to be able to pull in easily to an interpretive center and educate children, if we didn't want that, we probably wouldn't be having this lengthy discussion, and it wouldn't be at this point. So, but you know, the Swiss Valley as it exists is incredibly difficult to bring school buses in and out. If there's a huge educational component, Chapter 7 of our comprehensive planning agreement talks about education. This is a forward step. So I'm looking forward to that final language. And if I've got a gem and a jewel out there in Dyersville or Worthington, I'd love to hear about it.
Would Ed be available to assist Brian with trying to get this straightened out? Or
no,
right,
I'd suggest Harley, I'd suggest we just let Brian, we're talking about a few minor modifications. We'll let Brian negotiate that. He's got to get the partners to sign off on it. Be back with us in 2 weeks. I think he'll be fine.
Okay, all right.
Very good. All right, moving on in our agenda. We have a last minute addition, I think, to the agenda, a presentation from the 911 board folks. Harley, were you involved in this conversation?
For the
911 service board chair discussed the purchase of radio towers. You've been attending those meetings, I think. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thing to pull up to share.
So
If
who's
Tom's
gonna?
on, I think.
Enjoy your
Hi.
Tom Berger. Okay, very good. Tom, did you have something you wish to share?
Yeah, we're gonna, I think I can share my screen, and I have Denise Dolan with us, our 911 budget director too, so.
Is Sheriff Kennedy with you as well?
He's online, I see, but he's not out here physically, no.
Okay.
So, which one am I sharing?
That spreadsheet. So I think included in your packet was the contract that you signed with Raycom to build the 5 towers. And
yes,
those towers.
That agreement was included. We didn't see any kind of summary from anyone. All it was included was the contract, the lease agreement from June 10th
Correct.
of 2019.
Correct. You did not get a summary because I was in the process of taking minutes for the Public Safety Committee meeting while I was trying to get this put onto the agenda. The page, I believe it's page 7 of the contract, states that you have an option to purchase the towers. If you give a 30-day notice, and then within 60 days of the notice, you can complete the, that wasn't the one. Okay, that's fine.
That's not it.
Just
I think
put
it's
it up.
paragraph 18.
I have also, and I think Tom is going, I don't know if he's sharing it yet, Tom is going to share a spreadsheet that shows the amortization of the lease. And they calculated, our payments are made by the 15th of the month. You have $850,000 budgeted in the current year's budget, in your budget, to buy out this lease. And if you look at 6/15/21, the actual price to buy that out would be $685,000. So not quite $200,000 under what we thought it would cost. If we can get this accomplished by 6/15, which I would think that Stella would want because it's currently in the budget. If you wait past that date or past 6/30, then she has to amend the budget and we have to wait until there's a budget amendment to be able to reappropriate that money and then spend it. So when I realized the time frame on this, I took it to the issue to the Public Safety Committee last week. They discussed it and told me to try and get it on your agenda, which I did at the last minute. So I would, if you want, I will write a letter for next week's agenda that you could sign or approve and sign, notifying Raycom that you are invoking the 30-day option to purchase the towers.
What I would like to do, Denise, if it's all right with you, I'd like to see on our May 3rd, our May 3rd meeting, we'll have a work session. And then we'll have Stella Rundy, our budget director, with us as well. And then we can take action after the work session.
We need another work session?
What are you looking for from us, Tom and Denise and others?
You just looking for approval to send a letter, Denise, for the 30-day notice or what?
Yeah, essentially for me to write the letter for your approval. And I guess I didn't, are you not meeting next week?
We don't have any work sessions.
No, it's a night meeting. So.
But
So
do
May
you
3rd
need
is the
another?
morning.
I think what Denise is saying is, I don't know that we need another work session for this. Just that she would like to draft a letter for the board to approve, to then be sent to Raycom so that we can get the process started to make the outright purchase of the towers.
Right, we're missing the budget director. She wasn't available today. And she's
I
not
have-
in this week. So
I have
it would
tried
be.
to contact her and have received no response.
Right, and I know she's been trying to contact you as well. So, but that's the purpose of saying the 30-day notice. I think we can, the 30-day notice can begin on a May 3rd meeting.
Yeah.
That
I'm
doesn't
comfortable
make
with it
the
next
agreement
week.
fail.
I mean, so
That's
if,
fine.
you know, unless Joe or Tom thinks we need to wait on it, I'm comfortable, you know, moving forward and having that on the agenda next week. I don't know, Harley, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, the 30-day thing, and we're sending the notice. I mean, if we decide to not do anything, we can still get out of that.
Or I can put the letter on for next week, and if you want to decide to table it till the 3rd, you can do that. I
we
mean,
could do
Stella's
that too.
aware that the money is budgeted, and since we're coming in under budget, I can't see that she would have any heartburn with that.
Yeah, and I think the ultimate goal, I think, when we brought this to the board is, as Denise stated in the beginning, is that we're getting to the end of the budget year, and it's just a little bit cleaner if we get this cleaned up now, and not have to push that funding into the next fiscal year.
Right. I don't disagree with anything that's been said. When I spoke to the budget director on Friday, she had not had opportunity to do the things you're talking about because there wasn't communication, whether she did or you did or whatever. But it just would be nice to have it be with our budget director with us. I mean, that's her purpose. So if you want to draft something for next week, and if Stella's good, and if we feel we need her help, that's fine. And if not, you know, there's not a work session is all I'm pointing out.
Right, yeah. Well, I guess my hope was that any questions you had about it would be answered at this meeting unless you had questions of Stella or something like that.
Right. Okay, do we have any other questions?
None for me.
I have nothing.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
The only other thing we have today, the final item on our agenda, and if we can do it in 7 minutes, that's awesome, is the boards and commissions update. If there are anything that we want to inform each other about with our boards and commission work that we serve on.
on the UCC meeting on Friday, as was Ed. Ed actually did a nice summary on that, so I'll defer to him on that summary, but I believe it was sent out to everybody.
Yeah. Is there anything there, Harley, you think that we should be doing? I mean, we got the summary.
There's a lot of unknowns at this time. We don't know where anything.
Right, that's where we've been for weeks and weeks and weeks, so, yeah.
It did sound like the ATV, UTV thing was probably going to die, but it would be brought back up next year again.
Next year.
So we may have to redeal with that.
Mhm.
Other than that, the Soil and Conservation Commission is on some of their meetings. They actually have around 7,000 acres that are impacted by the Tutera and the reharvest now. So, I mean, they did a wonderful job with that. And that's about it on my end.
Do you have anything to share, Supervisor Wickham?
I do not.
A couple things I would point out to my colleagues generally. Tomorrow night, the Architect series with Heritage Works, a Facebook Live event and on YouTube is going to cover the courthouse. So I think that it would be good to see what they've uncovered about the courthouse history. They do a phenomenal job. Dwayne Haggerty and then Jason Nices from the Community Foundation and from the Dubuque County Historic Preservation Board does a phenomenal job. So I would encourage folks who are listening maybe to jump in and hear that. Wednesday evening is the Board of Health meeting. And I've had folks ask me about the mask mandate, and I've assured them it'll be a topic of discussion about data points and where we are with our COVID-19 response. I think on the Wednesday evening board meeting, Board of Health, I know that's going to be an agenda item to be pursued. So should be good discussion and lots of information to be learned. On Thursday, it is, excuse me, also on Wednesday at 1 o'clock, there's a Iowa Association of Counties, ISAC, has a certified supervisor program that they're just kicking off to be a certified supervisor, continuing education. There's a 1 o'clock meeting, and if it's something you would be interested in, there's no charge to do this. I've registered for that program to become a certified Iowa supervisor. It's continuing ed, but that's Wednesday at 1 o'clock. And then on Thursday, the mental health region will be meeting. The East Central region will meet. Our board meets on that day, and some exciting things have happened there, and I think they'll be posted as updates. The region did approve funding for Dubuque County for the Sheriff's Department to, beginning July 1st, have funding for the mental health liaison person. So another crisis and instrumental crisis person to be part of the sheriff's staff, which is an exciting, I understand, I have not seen this, but I understand Sheriff Kennedy wrote an amazing application to the region, and it was funded. So chosen as one of the counties to be added to the funding beginning July 1st. So that's pretty much what I know. So, and right on time, if there's no questions or further comments.
And will that architect thing be recorded at all? I have a 6 o'clock meeting, radio meeting that night.
They have been recording them, and they've been posting them to their YouTube channel.
Oh.
So you can go back and catch up later.
All right, super.
We are looking for a motion to adjourn until next Monday, which is an evening board meeting.
So moved.
I will second.
Motion a second to adjourn until April 26th. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye, that motion carries. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good week.
Thank you.
Yep.